Hello friends, tonight we will do that thing once more. Looking into the type of stories no one requested, but you quietly enjoy dozing off to them. We are going back to a time that has just pulled itself out of a bad dream. The big sickness has at last stopped eating up all the people. And the land is just waiting there like, what is next? You, my good friend, made it through. No one is quite sure how you did. Maybe it was your faraway town. Maybe you had a drink from a good well. Maybe you just had a body that was safe. But you are here, opening your eyes in the dim sun of a new land. Hearing quiet where sounds used to be. You likely will not make it through this next piece too, because the world is spinning in a big, confusing mess. But let's be honest, you are familiar with that by now. So before you get all settled, please take a second to give the video a like and join us. But only if you really find joy in what I am doing. And tell me below in the writing area, what is the time for you right this second? And which town are you floating away from today? Now make the lights low, maybe put a fan on, for that quiet buzzing sound in the back. And let us softly begin tonight's long trip together. You open your eyes in a town that smells of burning wood and wet ground. The air is very light and it is very still. You can hear the small birds singing loudly, because they are the only things that are making sounds. No wagons rolling past, no loud talking, no shops. Just open doors and the blowing of the wind. The big sickness, the great dying, the terrible illness. Whatever name you give it has passed over this land. Like a great big fire from the sky in a forest. About 1 in 3 or 1 in 2 of all the people are gone. You have put your own family in the ground. Or perhaps you did not have to. Maybe they just went away. Maybe you ran and did not turn to see. No matter what, you are not gone. And the world you once called your own is not here. Towns are now empty like games left behind. Big fields that once held tall yellow plants are now filled high with unwanted weeds. Cows are walking around like wild things. You go by a church and its big doors are falling down. The churchman is long gone, likely put in a big shared hole on the hill. Or maybe he is still behind the big table. That is now covered with dust and with candles. That stopped burning many months ago. You move through the town and your shoes make soft sounds. You do not find even one small boy or girl. You do not hear any happy sounds. In its place, there is a wagon half full with dry grass, frozen in place as if the person driving it just went away in the middle of talking. And it is just like that in all the places you visit. It is very hard to explain the heavy feeling of it all. It is not only sadness, it is a kind of being lost. Think of your little phone making a noise every 5 seconds. For 2 whole years, telling you someone new is gone. Think of sad goodbyes happening every single day. And then all at once, the noises are gone. The quiet is much harder to bear. You see a small house that is not locked. There is old, green bread on the wood table. A toy is leaning low next to the fire spot. No one is ever going to return. So you build a fire, let the air in, and say this is my home. That is simply what you have to do now. The ways of old are gone. The man who owned the land is dead. The money owed is not being taken. It is like a new start for good or for bad. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11 5:41 a.m. And here is a strange small note about this new and sad beginning. Lots of people in far-off parts did not even know. The sickness was all over, with so many gone and words not traveling well. It took a long time in some areas to know the bad part was done. Some people hid for so long they did not see whole new ways of life. Think about coming out of your little safe house in the high hills and seeing not only your town is gone, but your whole old way of being ruled is gone. That is the strange part. Time itself begins to feel very odd. In some areas, the people just gave up counting. Some places do not even know what the year is now. The papers that track time, the old lists, who had those, and who lived to keep them going. It is all a little bit unclear, which turns into a big problem. When you want to light to get things that were left, or just have a party without by chance having it on the wrong day. And still, people find ways, like green stuff on old food, very fast. People who lived like you begin to see what to do. Maybe you join up with some other people and make a new small town. Maybe you walk to a big city, London, Paris, Florence, to look at what is still there. There is bad stuff, for sure, but also good chances. For the very first time in your whole life, the steps up in the world seem like you can climb them. Very slick, yes, but not out of reach. One small note from the past worth saying. After the big sickness, many towns end. Big farms had so few people that the bosses started giving things to get new people to come and live there. Some of them gave away land for free. Others said you would be free from old work you owed. You could go to a town and right away be the most wanted person, just because you knew how to use a digging tool. And we're not getting sick right now. But this time was not all about strange new chances. Let us stop for one of those nice little talks that the people who study the past cannot stop having. Did the big sickness really make everything different? Or was it just a little shake-up for a short time? Some say it made a path for the new art time and the end of the old way of life. Others say to wait a minute, that the old ways were already starting to shake, and the big sickness just made the cup fall off the table a bit sooner. Who is correct? You do not have a worry. You are busy thinking if you should take fruit from a nearby tree place, or mend the bad spot in your straw roof before the sky waters again. In this quiet new land, even the pets are not the same. Dogs with no people now come with you. Cats make more cats. The mice, the first bad guys of this whole story, are still doing very well, by the way. A few things just stay the same. And here is a scary little thing for you. To hide under your sleeping place. In very many towns, the big bells stopped making sounds. No one was there to make them ring. No one was there to be sad for. Churches turned into quiet places for the gone, and the quiet became the way things are now. You do not see how much sound people make together, until all of it is gone. But you are still around, walking, taking breaths, thinking, maybe even feeling a little bit of hope. So you just keep walking. You do not say much anymore. Not because you cannot speak or anything, but because, well, who is there to talk to? Most of the people you see on the path give you that empty-eyed stare, like they are just now waking up on the inside. Some say a small good word, others just move their head, and a lot of them act like they did not see you at all. There is a strange way of acting when you live through something. Like a quiet rule that no one likes to ask a lot of questions. About the places you have been or who you have lost. You do not ask, so they do not ask. Everyone is just walking about with half of a life. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. What is even more strange are the little new ways that are showing up in all the places. People do not want to hold hands anymore. It is too much of a risk. Instead, they do this small arm bow, or sometimes just show a dry plant, like a funny old-time sign for peace. You see a man in a fuzzy hat walking the wrong way through a town, because someone said the sickness could not find you like that. Does it make sense? No. But in these times, making sense is not really needed. You see whole groups of people with things on their necks, made of garlic, sage, or lavender. Strong-smelling old flower rings, meant to push away the bad air. The idea of miasma, or bad clouds of air, is still very strong in the world, really and not really. People put little smell balls into their long sleeves or belts. You have begun to do it too, if only because it makes you smell a bit less, like an animal from the woods. And talking of smells, it is not good out here. Let us not try to make it sound nice. Being gone has a very long life on the shelf. And even if the people were put in the ground, the thought of them stays. The buildings smell old, the fields are sour, and no thing has quite the same smell it once had. You used to think of bread as smelling warm and like the ground. Now it all has a small smell of bad soup. And old shoes, even when it is just made. But it is not all yucky and like ghosts. There are times that are really very odd. One morning, you see a group of men who whip themselves. In a big open space, about 50 people walking in one line, hitting their own backs with ropes that have knots. Their backs are red. They are singing in a different language, and they are totally sure that all of this pain is a punishment from the sky, and hurting yourself is the only way to be saved. No one makes them stop. Some people go with them. Others give them coins or small bits of bread, like it is a kind of show on the side of the road. The men who whip are not a new thing, but they have become more bold. Before the sickness, they were just some strange people. Now they are the big show in a few towns. The local church men are very worried. The big boss of the church is not happy, especially because these people do not really do what the church says. They have a sort of do-it-yourself kind of belief. But bad times mean you try desperate things. You watch them walk away, their beat is strangely catchy. And you see that for some people, this is the only way they have learned how to feel their sadness. If the world fell apart, maybe the body must fall apart too. You choose not to go with them, but you look until they go away down the path. Their sounds becoming something between a prayer and a sad cry. Belief in general is changing, let us just say. Some people hold on tighter than they ever did, while others just sort of did not come back to church at all. Can you feel bad for them? The church said it would give comfort, mending, maybe even safety. But instead, all the people were gone. Even the church men were not safe. Whole big houses for church men were now empty. And when the church men were gone, people started making things up. In some areas, new helper saints begin to appear. Local stories come up faster then you can remember them all. Saint Ulfreda of the quiet sleep, Saint Belfus of the safe children, Saint Marmaduke of the clean mice. Not at all real, but very, very liked. People say prayers to anyone who seems like they might listen. You see a holy spot made from nothing but broken cooking pots and old burnt shoes. You ask a person what it is there for, and they only say, "So we will not forget." Okay, that is fair. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. There is also a growing wave of what you can only call too much belief in things that are not real. People put little bells on their doors to make bad spirits go away. Good luck charms made from bone or wood from the water become popular. You even see a woman who says her goose can talk to angels. You do not say she is wrong. And then there is the truly big thing. No one is really sure what the year is. The old lists are all mixed up, the writers are gone. And the papers that track time kind of fell to pieces. Was it the year 1349, 1351? It changes who you ask. Some people made their own way of counting time, counting the years from the great dying, or using strange signs from the seasons like the cold time the river turned to ice, or the spring when a calf had 7 heads. To be honest, you kind of like the mess. Time was never really real anyway. But that is not to say it is all wildness and magic thinking. Slowly, with much pain, a new kind of normal starts to show up. People begin to fix things, not in big new buildings, but in very small, useful ways. Someone mends a well. Someone else puts beans in the ground. And just like that, the world moves on. Still, there is a sharpness to all things. People are more jumpy, faster to be mad, and oddly think things are lucky or unlucky. One man says his neighbor took death away from his family. Another says he saw a bad spirit go through his chicken house. You learn to stay away from people who talk to themselves too much. A little bit of wildness can spread, but not all odd ways are bad. A rather nice little side thing from this sad new time is that people get very full of feeling. Songs that no one sang for a long time are suddenly liked again. Children, when you at last see some, play little games, like Ring Around the Rosie. Yes, that one right there. And no one seems to be aware it is about the sickness. Or perhaps they are aware, and that is the reason they sing it. You stop in a town where people put colored pieces of cloth on a tree. Each one is a wish or a name of a person who is gone. You put up your own, but you do not put any words on it. You do not have to. The cloth moves in the soft wind like a prayer. That does not need any words. For a short, strange time, you find that you are smiling. It is not joy exactly, more like a feeling of knowing. You are not the only one trying to figure out this half-gone world. And maybe that is okay for right now. Here is a fun little talk to end with. Was the strange time after the sickness a short time of feelings, or the start of a long change in how people live? Did all the odd ways, wild beliefs, and new saints just go away? Or did they quietly help to start later things? Like mystic ways, new church ideas, and folk ways. To be honest, the line between hurt and new ways is thin, paper thin. You are living proof of just that. So you keep walking, keep seeing, keep living, even if no one is really sure what the day it is. You wake up one morning and you notice a strange thing. People mind if you come to do your work. Not just in a nice way, but in a very worried. Give you free eggs, so you will come sort of way. It is a nice feeling in a very strange way. Because before the sickness, you were only one more set of hands in a very long row of bent over backs and feet in mud. Now your hands are worth a lot. Maybe even have some power. It seems that when half of all the people are gone, the ones who are still here suddenly mean a lot more. There are not enough bread makers, not enough shoemakers. And let us not even begin to talk about the small number of people who know how to clean a pig pen without falling over. The landowners, who were once so sure of themselves, are now worried. The fields are empty. The mills are not working. The food fails not because of a sickness, but from just not being taken care of. Though Ray is no one here to do the work. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. And so something very new quietly starts. The people who work begin to talk for more. It starts with just saying no. A man who watches sheep walks away from a rich man's land and does not return. A young lady says no to work in one town and walks to another one where she is given a whole chicken and a shiny coin. People who were once stuck to the land by old ways, fear or being poor for a long time, are now all at once able to move. You can say no to them. You can go away now. You can stand up straight. Ask for more things. This new power does not sit well with the rich people. The rich people used to easy work, and people who did not ask questions start to have very quiet fits. These normal people are having new thoughts. They talk low over their wine. You hear one rich man say to another that his kitchen helper asked for shoes with strong leather bottoms. The shock of it all. Laws begin to show up fast and in a panic. In England, the leaders put together a thing called the Law of Workers in 1351. It tries to make pay go back to before the sickness levels and says it is against the law for workers to go around looking for better pay. In short, stop acting like you have rights. A little secret, it does not work. Because how do you put the paste back in the tube? Or the worker back in the mud? You see a young man who fixes roofs who tells you with pride that he said no to 3 work offers in just 1 week. They gave me a goose, he says, but I waited to get a goat. You move your head, feeling impressed, in a world still shaky from a bad thing. This is a way of moving up. Of course, with all this mess comes more confusion. People who never thought they would have land suddenly have it because the owner is gone, with no one to leave it to. The lines of land get all blurry. A cousin from 3 places away says he is now the right person for the land. Papers. Good luck with finding any. Sometimes the local church will come in to help. Sometimes it is all taken care of by a fist fight and a bet with a cooked chicken. And here is your odd fact for today. In a few places, whole towns were ready to be taken, if enough of the people were gone or had run away. The land just stayed there. People would just go in and say they were the new people, changing the name of the place and everything. Think of going to an empty small town, putting up a flag and saying, "This is now known as Bobville. I am Bob." things become strangely like starting a business. You go through towns where old workers have made their own little ways to trade things. That person who used to clean horse places, he is now getting wool sent to Bruges. The lady who lost all of her family, she is selling sweet breads out of what was once a big barn for grain. And they are so good. There is a kind of rough hope showing. Not all over and not the same, but real. But of course, not all people are doing well. Some people take all the land like it is gold. Others go into a full panic, holding on to old ways, to keep the steps of people from falling apart. You hear tales of rich men making workers go back to work, with a sword held to them. Some try to bring back the old agreements. You owe me, they say with force. Your father worked my land, and so you will too. You are not so sure. The world seems different now. Agreements feel like they are dust. You have seen too much, lost too much, to act as if things are still the same. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. There is a big talk starting under all of this. A slow, quiet whisper from the smart people. Did the sickness make the old way of life end in Europe? Or was it already not working? Some people who study the past say it just made it happen faster. Others think it gave the workers their first real bit of money power. Either way, you can feel the big shift under your own feet. And just when you feel things are getting calm, the church chooses to put its hand in. Bishops begin to talk against workers who want too much, and the sin of wanting more. They tell the rich men to stand strong. One very grumpy friar says the sickness was God's punishment for being too proud, and asking for more pay is just making him mad again. You try hard not to throw a turnip at him. But here is the main thing. People are tired of being quiet. Workers begin to write, like really writing things down. Open letters, things they are not happy with, things they want. The thought of a deal between people is not new. But now it is your own. You see a young man who took 3 cold times to learn to read, just so he could know what land papers said. He shows you how to write your own name, with black charcoal on a bit of bark. It is not neat, but you feel strong. Work is no longer something you cannot see. It is loud. It is moving. It is worth a lot. And so the world shakes and moves on. Not perfectly and not the same everywhere. Some places hold on to the old W. Eyes for another 100 years. Others jump forward like a child who has had too much sugar. You are in the middle of it all, watching the parts move, trying to see if you are in a big chain, or just going with the flow. Either way, it is good to mean something. It has been a long time since you saw a lord, riding by with his flags and a dozen men in armor. They were once all over the place, walking through towns like they were big, proud birds, taking taxes with one hand and touching babies' heads with the other. Now they are staying in their falling down big houses, looking at empty books and thinking, why no one wants to work their fields for no pay now. But you do see another thing. Land just there, waiting, and no one to say it is theirs. You walk past big fields filled high with prickly plants that were once taken care of for barley or for beans. There is an old mill house near the river, where the big wheels have stopped moving, and you put your head in. Old flour, torn bags. A mouse that looks at you like he is the boss now. You kind of feel respect for him. You find empty small houses hidden in the trees, some still with things inside. A pot on the fire spot, blankets folded up. Like the people thought they would come back, but they did not. And here is the really wild thing. You can just go in. Just find a place and live there. No papers, no asking for it. It is not really by the rules, but also, who will make you stop? People who stay become people who live there. New people become neighbors. You see a couple who made a house empty from the sickness into a place for bread, and they are doing very well, thank you. She bakes the bread. He keeps the bees. And they have called the place Second Chance Hollow. A little bit much, but you let it go. Because their sweet honey is so good. This kind of new land sharing does not happen by the rules. At least not right now. But not by the rules, it is the biggest change of land. In the history of this place, people just take what is still there. Whole groups of people move into empty big houses. Some poor people try to make them nice again like they were. Cleaning old wall cloths, lighting big candles, until they see that warming one of those big stone places in the cold time is a very bad thing. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. Here is a fun thing to know. In places like France and England, many hundreds of towns went away for good at this time. They are now called the lost towns. People who study the past find what is left of them many years later. Stone floors, tools, sometimes even holes in the ground for the dead. Like little cards from a time that just went away. And this makes a bigger change. One you can feel more than you can know. The thought of who has the land starts to come apart. Before, it was given from one rich family to another, all mixed up in names and old loyalties. Now it is often taken by whoever is still here. That is not good for the rich people. They keep sending out people with messages and writers, trying to get back their control. But it is hard to make a name mean something when your workers have either passed away or gone to better farmland. You hear two old workers talking. Now they both own what was once a rich man's great field. One says it is not taking if there is no one here to have it. The other just shrugs and says, it is not having if you did not make it. Smart and useful. You like these people. But the messy rules do not end with just staying. People who should get things start showing up. Some are real, some are just made up with good stories. You see a man who says he is the fifth cousin of a dead rich man, with a half-burnt note and a lot of sureness. You are not sure if he is lying or just hopeful. This land grab also makes a new kind of person. The moving worker with choices. You are not held down anymore. You live where the land is good, the people are okay, and the food does not taste like moss and feeling bad. And when it is not, you go. Here is where it gets more interesting. Local lords and the city bosses start giving things for people like you to stay in one place. Free land, lower taxes, sometimes even seeds to plant, or a cow to help you start. The town rules get written again to get new people. All at once, you are being asked for like a big prize winner. If big prize winners used farming tools and sometimes knew Latin, But there is a strange other effect. With all this free moving, land taking, deal making, the way people are put in groups starts to bend. In some areas, you get this strange mixed group. Not really workers, not really rich. Let us call them the by chance gentry. People who now have land tell others what to do, maybe even wear nice clothes, but still clean up animal messes on the weekend. And that is where you end up, not really, but really. Somewhere in the middle. You have a small house now, a spot for beans. A chicken that does not like you for reasons you do not know. You are not Rick H, but you are not just getting by either. You know how to make a fence, fix a shirt, and you have even found out how to dig a bathroom spot. That does not get full in the rain. New problems, old ways to fix them. Here is your smart person talk for the night. Did this land change after the sickness, forever change how land was owned in Europe? Some say yes. It helped to end the big hold on land and opened the door for more people to own their own land. Others say it was just a messy time. And by the 1400s, the rich people just took what was left. You cannot make up your mind, but you do know one thing. You are not letting go of your spot without a fight. Odd fact time. In some parts of Italy and the south of France, land was given from mothers after the sickness, just because more ladies lived than men. For a short time, a lot of land and power went through daughters and not sons. The world did not end. It just got a little more interesting. So here you are, a staying farmer, part-time deep thinker with a chicken problem, and a future you did not think you would have. The land is full of second chances, and you have got one for your own. You look at your little piece of ground, breathe in the earthy smell of almost ready potatoes, and think not too bad for the end of the world. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. You wake up to the sound of a person yelling, not in fright or sadness like it once was. This sound has power, a bite, a reason. You get out of your grass bed, clean your eyes, and look out of the window of your borrowed small house. Down in the town open space, a small group is coming together. Someone is shouting about pay, about taxes, and how they are not going to stand for it anymore. You get your shoes and go to find out what the big noise is about. It seems the workers are getting bold. It begins small, low talking in the drinking places, quiet talking during church, things said over the tops of fences. But it gets bigger. People are sick of being made to go back to their old places. You hear it over and over. We worked through the hard part. We put the dead away. We kept the fields, and now they want us to be unseen again. A little secret. You and all the others are not feeling unseen anymore. It is a strange feeling to see people who once put their heads down now standing up straight, arms folded, saying no to nailing. Before the sickness, a worker talking back to a lord was almost a funny thing. Now it is so normal that lords are riding around with guards again, just in case the local people have thoughts. And oh, they are having thoughts. In England, stories begin to move of attacks. One more, the third or fourth since the sickness, depending on how you are counting. But this one feels different. People are already pushed to their limit, and the thought of big graves and yelling cart drivers is still very new. The thought of giving more to the same people who let them go bad during the worst of it. Yeah, that does not sound good. It all gets to a hot point in 1381. Maybe you are there. Maybe you just get the stories from passing sellers. But no matter what, it is loud and it is real. Wat Tyler, a name that seems more like a local wood chopper. Then a rebel boss comes up from the group, with a priest named John Ball, who basically says that all men were made the same, which is for sure not what the church says. He leads many thousands of workers to London, with farming tools and swords and some very strong ideas. When Adam dug and Eve spun, Ball says, "Who then was the gentleman?" That line, it stays with you. You hear it said again in every drinking place from Kent to Yorkshire. It is not just being against things. It is a way of thinking, a burning question. If death does not mind about class, why should the living? The big fight does not end in a good way. Tyler is killed while talking. The king, young and worried, says he will make changes, and then right away takes it all back. But the harm is done. Not to the king's rule, not even to the tax way, but to the thought that workers cannot fight back. The glass wall between the rich and everyone else got a crack. And England is not the only place. All over Europe, similar fights start like dry grass on fire. In France, there is the Jacquerie in 1358, named for Jacques, the common name for your normal French worker. These people get tired of bad soldiers, high taxes, and rich people going to strong castles while everyone else is hungry. So they rise up. It is short, mean, and stopped with very scary force. But again, the thought of it stays. People remember, and they keep on talking. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. Even in Italy, fights start to happen. In Florence, the Ciompi fight of 1378 sees the wool workers, the lowest part of the work steps, take over the government for a short, fast moment. Can you picture it? People with dirt under their nails making the rules. It does not last, but it tells a story. There are more of us than them. Of course, not everyone is happy with this newfound strength. The top people do not like feeling worried at the sight of a hoe or a big knife. They start to make more walls, really. You see towns putting up stone defenses again. Not for armies from far away, but against their own people. You hear quiet talk of bad lists, secret church talks, saying the pride of the low people is bad, and quietly made new laws that make it wrong. To meet in groups bigger than 10 without a rich person watching. A group of 11 sheep watchers talking about pay. That is seen as being against the king. You cannot stop laughing. It is like someone tried to make it a law not to be upset. One odd small thing stays with you from this time. In some towns, people begin to wear little badges or pins to show they are together. Nothing nice. A carved wood circle, a colored piece of cloth. Just a sign that says, "Hey, I see you. I am on your side." You keep one hidden inside your coat, though you do not ever show it out in the open. Still, it feels nice, heavy in your pocket. Here is a smart person talk that still makes people who study the past mad. Were these worker fights early signs of class knowing? Proto-Marxism, if you look close. Or were they more about living right now? A quick bit of anger with no long-term plan for ruling. Hard to say. You have seen plenty of people who just want food and quiet. But you have also heard others ask real questions about who owns what, who gets what, even about ruling. Questions with sharp teeth. And then there is the church, which finds itself in the middle of it all. It used to be the one sure thing, the person between kings and workers. Now people are not so sure. If the church men lived in comfort while the people died in ditches, what does that mean? You see church men yelled at, big church houses boycotted. And in some places, whole groups of people just do not come back. The fight energy does not just go away after the soldiers come in and stop it. It stays in quiet, not doing what you are told. In the new way, people see their lords, no longer with respect, just with a tired feeling. It stays in how workers start asking for written deals for work, how they plan their food, gathering times as equals, not helpers. You even see it in clothes. Really, poor people begin to dress in nicer ways. Not rich levels of nice, but better than they did. Shirts in brighter colors, belts with a bit of decoration. It is like everyone all at once decided no more gray potato sacks. Let us at least seem like we are part of this world. And you can feel it too. A little more straight in your back, a little less shy at the buying place. You have seen what happens when people make a stand. It does not always end in a good way, for sure. But it always has a meaning. And sometimes meaning is all that you have. So the workers do not go back to being quiet. They keep talking low, meeting, pushing. And after a while, those low talks will become things they want. And those things they want will shape kingdoms. But for now, you go back to your small house. Walk by your neighbor's goat, still mean. And light your night fire. The world is changing. Not in a hurry, but like a hill after a big rain. Slow cracking, not able to be stopped. And you are standing right in the middle of it. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11:41 a.m. It is getting harder not to notice them. The loud drums, the chanting sounds, the beat of bloody ropes, hitting human backs. Yeah, the flagellants are here in town once more. You are on your way to trade some onions for a new set of shoes. And they are there, walking right down the middle of the main paths. Like old-time surprise show people. Except instead of strange dances, it is self-hurting and end-of-the-world talks. They come with no shoes, no shirts, and covered with dirt. Some have on white robes with red crosses. Others seem like they have not put on new clothes since the sickness began. They hold up big flags, sing sad songs, and whip their own backs in the same arcs. Each hit is a sharp note that belief can get very showy. When people feel like they have no help. And to be honest, you kind of see why. They are not just here for the big show. The world went all wrong, and these people are just trying to understand it. The only way they can, by saying sin is the root, and hitting it out of their own bodies. They think the sickness was God's punishment for how bad people were. And now they are giving their pain as a gift. It is part saying sorry, part a show, part a group talk. A very loud group talk. You see a few town people watching them from behind their doors. Eyes big and not moving. Others get on their knees as the line goes by. Not because they are holy, but maybe in a quiet hope. That the big show might in some way help. That maybe all of this hurting will please whatever big power keeps making everything into a big fire. Of course, not all people believe it. the local church man looks out from his chapel window, seeming like he is ready to act sick, just so he does not have to talk to them. The flagellants are not really liked by the church bosses. They act outside of the church's power. They give their own talks and they get big crowds. That makes them a danger, and not just to their own selves. You hear one of the men in robes yelling something about the Pope being a fake, the end of the world being close, and the ground bleeding through its own skin. It is all very big and dramatic, but it feels different now. That people are hurt, confused, and trying to fix things. Fear listens much better after a bad thing happens. This big group started during the worst of the sickness, but it did not go away with it. In fact, in many places, the flagellants are seen more after the sickness, like weeds that came up in the cracks of a broken way of life. They go from town to town like end-of-the-world singers, getting followers and scaring the local leaders. It is kind of like a road show of panic. In Strasbourg, they made real riots. In Erfurt, they were not allowed. In places like Switzerland and Austria, whole towns came out to either cheer for them or yell at them to go away. You have seen both. It depends on the day and the general feeling. Odd fact for you tonight, some flagellants went with their own music people. Drummers, pipers, even singers to go with the whippings. Think of that. Someone's work was to give the music for public self-whipping. Think about asking for that job. But here is where it gets more complex. These people do not just chant and bleed and go away. They leave behind thoughts, new ones, wrong ones, strong ones. They say that you do not need church men to talk to God. That being sorry is between you and the skies. That the church did not help during the sickness. So maybe it is not the only voice of what is true anymore. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11:41 a.m. Sound like something you have heard. It should. These little seeds will in the end grow into the big religious changes of the years to come. Protestantism does not just show up. It is watered by fear, confusion, and small movements like this one. Right now, though, the church is not happy about it. By the middle of the 1300s, the Pope, safe in Avignon, officially says the flagellants are bad, stops their walks, and kicks out their leaders. But being kicked out means little when the world already seems cursed. So they keep on walking, staying away from power like a group of shoeless outlaws. You ask one of them why he does it. He looks at you with wet eyes, lifts up his shirt to show a big mess of scars, and says, "So you will not have to," which is both very moving and completely scary. You give him a nod and maybe a small bit of cheese, then quietly go away. There is another layer to all of this, one you begin to see. The more that you travel, the flagellants are almost all men, and often they are younger, with no roots and angry. With so many families gone, so many towns broken up. Young men with no homes or futures go to something. Anything that gives them a reason. Pain becomes who they are. Being brothers becomes belief. But not all ways of showing faith go to full blood and guilt. In other parts of Europe, people answer to the same bad thing by making little chapels, carving new holy pictures, or writing mystic poems. You see an old lady outside Lübeck who is sure. She saw the Virgin Mary in a cloud of fog, and now has night prayer groups in her barn. The barn smells like cows, but also like hope, so you just go along. There is a growing pull, though a spiritual fight, between the main power and small local belief. You feel it. On one side, the church trying to get back its order, stop people who do not agree, and fix its image. On the other, a restless, hurting people, playing with faith like it is soft clay, making it into whatever they need. Here is a smart person talk to get you more into a half-dream state. Were the flagellants just a small reaction to a big hurt? Or were they an early kind of popular fight against the power of the church? Some say they were early reformers. Others think they were more like spiritual shock helpers, turning fear into a show to stop a real fight. Either way, you are living through a time when pain is shown in public, faith can be bent, and belief becomes very much your own. You walk back from town that night under a big, full moon, still hearing the sound of chanting in your ears. You go by the town holy spot, a new one made from old church benches, and light a candle without even thinking about it. No churchman, no singers, just you and the small light. Against the dark. The flagellants might go away, but the questions they bring up stay like smoke. Who has the truth? Who owns being saved? And what does faith look like when the world has already gone once? You do not have the answers. No one really does. But at least you are not the only one asking. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. The chirp. Bells still make a sound, but not much. Just 1 or 2 times a day now, and only if a person remembered to pull the big rope. You have seen they sound different now. More empty in some way, like the towers are also tired. Or maybe that is just you. It is hard to know anymore. Either way, belief does not feel as strong as it once was. You can remember a time, not very long ago, when the church was the one true power in all things. Life being gone, taxes, getting married, your soul forever. Yep, all went through the local church man with his inky fingers. And that single gold ring he would always kiss before saying prayers. Back then, being saved came in a set. Church each week, giving to the poor, maybe a long trip. If you were feeling very, very holy, you did the right things, and in return you were told you would get answers. But now the answers do not seem so clear. The sickness did not only take people. It showed the cracks. Deep, ugly ones. The type of cracks that were there all along. But you did not see them until everything else broke apart. People saw church men running from towns before the dying was even done. Monks closing their big doors, bishops keeping food, while whole towns had none. And then the worst thing of all, the sickness came all the same. All the long prayers, all the pardons, all the holy things. None of it made the bleeding stop. So faith is still around, but it is moving. Quietly in a strange way, like a man trying to sit on a chair. That he is not sure is there. You walk by a church one morning and see it is. Half full of people during the talk. The churchman talks on and on about doing as you are told and being humble. But most of the people are just looking at the floor. A few talk low to each other. One old lady just falls right asleep, which would have been a big shock a few years ago. Now it is just another Tuesday. But the most strange thing is this. The empty spot left by the church's power that is going away. It is not just empty. It is being filled up. Not all at the same time, and not in a planned way. But it is still being filled. You see small signs of it in all the places. Holy spots showing up outside of town lines. People wearing charms that are not quite from the church, but not really from old ways either. Prayer groups are happening in barns and fields. And one time, strangely, in a blacksmith shop. It smelled like hot metal and burnt feathers. And no one is really sure what they are praying about. But they all keep coming. Mysticism is very popular now. Visions, seeing things, dreams. You cannot walk 2 miles without a person saying, they have had a talk with a saint, an angel, or the Virgin Mary herself. Some of these people are clearly a bit touched in their heads. Others, to be honest, they seem like they are telling the truth. There is one lady you see on the path to Cologne. Young, pale, with no shoes. She says she only walks where God tells her to go. She has made it across 3 lands on faith alone, and a very large amount of found berries. You speak with her for some time, and she tells you things you have not heard in church talks. That God is in all places, not just in the buildings. That being hurt is not a punishment, but a change. That being saved is your own, not something you buy. Then she gives you a little stone with a cross made on it, and walks away like you are just one more step in her long trip. And you hold that stone for many weeks, not because you are sure of it yet, but because a part of it feels real, or at least close to it. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. You also hear quiet talk about new saints, ones that are not okayed by the big church, local ones. People who passed away during the sickness while helping others, or who lived by a miracle and now walk around, mending and giving good words and saying half-lost psalms. They do not wear big hats or hold long staffs. Most do not even know Latin, but they have big crowds. One man, people call him Brother Eli, shows up. Outside Bruges wearing only a wool shirt, and a crown that is made of grapevines. He gives long, strange talks about how the world must lose its skin like a snake before it can be well. You do not know what half of it means, but everyone listens. Really listens. Then he takes his crown off and gives it to a poor man, who cries for 10 long minutes. Not all of it is quiet, as the church has a hard time getting back its power. The feelings get high. Churchmen begin to say out loud that secret meetings are bad. In some places, leaders take wandering talkers away, saying they are heretics. You see one man being pulled from a crowd, still yelling holy words as the guards take him away. It is scary, but also oddly makes you feel brave. There is a talk bubbling under all of this, one the smart people still fight about. Was this messy religious time after the sickness the first small fire of the Reformation? Some say yes, for sure. It made the church's hold on being saved weaker. Others say it was just a needed cultural cleaning. After a group hurt, like spiritual freeform jazz, before the old ways became solid again. But here is the strange fact you did not see coming. In some areas, people begin to mix star reading into their religious ways. Yep, stars, planets, moon cycles, all used to explain what God wants. Some people think the sickness was written in the sky, long before it came here. And now they watch the skies for new words. One bread maker in Bavaria tells you Mercury is moving backward. And that is why his bread is not getting big. You nod your head slowly, and you eat it anyway. Meanwhile, the church tries to rebrand. More saints, more holy things, more parades. You go to one in Prague that is so big. It seems like a parade for holy bones. They carry a skull wrapped up in gold, say it was from some martyr. No one has ever heard of, and the crowd goes wild. People throw flowers, children cry. It is all very big and very good for a short time. But deep down, people are still asking the big questions. Why did so many people pass away? Why did the church man not know what to do? Why did God not make it stop? No one has answers, only different ideas. And some of them are so beautiful. You light a candle at one of those roadside, holy spots one night. Just a small flame in the dark, next to dozens of others. You do not say a prayer because you do not know what you should ask for. But being there in the flickering quiet, you see that maybe prayer is not about asking. Maybe it is just about not being all alone. The very first time you see it, you think it is a wrong thing. A picture on a piece of wood, not on cloth, leaning on the wall of a little chapel just outside of Siena. You stop right where you are, your bread almost falling from your bag. Because the picture does not look like the saints and angels you have seen. No shiny rings, no gently held hands. Instead, it is all skeletons. Many dozens of them dancing. They move and jump with a strange joy. Arms held with rich men and workers too. A bishop turns next to a poor man. A queen moves around with a dead body in a torn cloth. You squint at the words written under it and read something like, "As we are now, you will soon be." Happy things, but it is not a funny joke. These kinds of pictures, memento mori, remember you will pass away, are being seen everywhere now. Painted on the walls of churches, carved into wood beams, even put into funeral clothes. Death is no longer staying behind a cover or put in the corner of a big picture. It is right there in the middle, posing, smiling. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. It is not sad though. Not really. It is just being honest. The sickness changed art for all time. Before, most art for the church was easy to guess. From the heavens in order, glowing. Jesus had a quiet face. Mary had a calm face. Even being a martyr had a kind of beauty to it. Like being hurt was just a short bad time before heavenly good things. Now all of it is raw, full of feeling strange. You go to a chapel in Lubeck and see a big wall picture, showing the Last Judgment, but this time. The bad ones look just like your neighbors. One even seems to be holding on to a chicken. There is fire, yelling, angels with swords like they mean it. You turn to go and see the door frame is carved, with very small skulls. Just a little note to think about being gone. On your way out the door. Artists are different now, too. More bold, more real. They are painting all the things they have seen. Big graves, sad mothers, bone collectors walking the fields. You see one in Florence who says he only uses ash. In his paint colors now, he says it makes the colors have life. You nod mostly because he seems like he has not slept in 3 days. And you do not want to talk back to a man who paints with burnt things. Even the saints are getting a new look. They seem more human, more tired, less like divine fashion people. and more like people who have seen some hard things. There is a painting of Saint Sebastian full of arrows, and instead of seeming a bit bothered, he really looks like he is feeling pain. It is surprising and kind of nice to see. This change is not just what you see, it is what you feel. Art becomes a way of dealing, a kind of group therapy for everyone, where all people put their sadness, fear, and confusion on the wall, and say, there, that is how it really felt. The dance of death is not there to make you scared. It is a strange kind of being together. Rich, poor, good, bad, we all become bones. And yet, there is a thing that frees you in that being the same. You hear people make jokes about it, in a not really joking way. We are all just skeletons on the inside anyway. A sailor laughs over wine. Might as well dance before the worms get to. You clink your cups and try not to think about the worms. A strange little moment. In Paris, someone begins to sell playing cards, with skeletons in many different roles. King deaths, knight death, even fool deaths. It becomes liked very fast. Before a long time, half the drinking places you pass are full of people. Playing bones and thrones like it is a game for the country. Sad, yes, but also kind of fun. Theater changes, too. The shows get more dark. Morality plays get very popular. Little shows where good things and bad things that are like people fight over the soul of a normal person. Greed is played by a man with coins stuck on his face. Mercy has on a coat of white cloth and cries when she is told to. The people who watch love it, especially when death comes. In the last part, taking the hero away, no matter what he did. Not a hard message to get. You start to see that the culture, after the sickness, is not so into death as much as it is changing what it means. Before, death was a thing that happened at the end of life. Now it is mixed into everyday living. People have skull charms on their necklaces. Some wear black even when not in a sad time. You see a lady who puts tiny coffins into the bottom of her apron. Just to keep things in view, she says with a shrug. Here is where the smart person talk comes in. Was this big show of sad art and signs a sign of a group hurt? Or was it just people being useful? Did the sickness bend the way Europe saw beauty? Or did it finally take off the nice mask that was hiding the truth for all that time? You have your own idea. Maybe it is some of both. Maybe when the world falls apart, you stop acting like it was ever neat to start with. Maybe the skeletons were dancing all along. We just at last opened our eyes. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11:41 a.m. You see it in what children draw, too. Charcoal marks of figures in hoods, smiling skulls with flowers. People holding hands with angels. One child makes a picture of his family as ghosts, floating over a house that looks a lot like your own. He smiles when he shows it to you. You try to smile back, but it is not all death and bad feelings. New kinds of beauty start to come out, too. There is a kind of soft sadness to the music now. More sad keys, more hurting songs. People sing songs that sound like lullabies and sad goodbyes at once. You hear one in a market, a song about a love, who passed away in the spring and came back as a swallow. It stays in your mind for many weeks. And the art that is not about death, it is about staying alive. About quiet times. A mother brushing her child's hair, a man feeding geese in the snow. A woman lighting a lamp with no one else there. These pictures feel just as strong as the skeletons. Because they whisper, "See, we are still here." One more strange fact for your sleeping collection. The sculptures on tombs begin to change. Instead of perfect pictures of the gone in youth or prayer, people start asking for trancy effigies. Stone carvings of their own bodies falling apart. Bones, worms, old skin, real death faces. It is both very scary and incredibly honest. One rich man, it seems, asked to be shown, as he will be 1 year after he is put in the ground. Bold choice, but there is beauty in that too. A kind of pride in not lying about where all of this goes. And maybe, strangely, a comfort. So tonight, as you lie down on your bed full of straw, and look at the dark shapes on your wall, you think about those dancing skeletons. Not as a bad thing, but a note that you are a part of the dance, too. Still moving, still breathing, still here. And maybe that is the most beautiful thing of all. You used to stay away from graveyards. Most people did. They were quiet places for sad goodbyes, not for staying long. But now they have become oddly like parks. People walk through them in the late day like they are parks. They sit on green mossy stones, light candles, even leave little notes. It is not sad. It is like healing. In a world where half the people went away, people are finding new ways to live with being gone, instead of trying to hide from it. It is not about being scared anymore. It is about remembering and getting ready. Death is popular now in the most strange way possible. Not in a sad, oh me way, but in a very useful, a little bit showy kind of way. You see people who are planning their own goodbyes, with more style than a royal wedding. A neighbor says her coffin must be made from oak, and have blue wool on the inside. Another has asked for a new song to be sung by the local children. Sad key only, of course, for the right kind of drama. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. You are asked to a before goodbye party. It is like a goodbye practice. The main guest is still alive, drinking cider in a fur-lined coat, while everyone says what they will say when she is gone. She claps, she cries, she gives notes. "A little more feeling, please," she says to one nephew, who does not do his tribute well. To be honest, it is kind of very smart. The way people see passing away has changed all the way. Before the sickness, it was a thing that happened out of view, taken care of by churchmen and families, kept down low like a bad smell. Now it is part of talk at dinner. People speak out loud about where they want to be put in the ground, what they want to wear if they would rather go in their sleep, or in the middle of a big rainstorm. One man says he wants to go mid-sentence while telling a funny story. You have respect for that. And it is not just the rich people making these plans. Poor people are doing it too. They may not have silk-lined coffins, but they carve their own stone markers or choose a special rock to be a headstone. Some begin to build their own graves before they need them. Little spots with their name and a short line like, "Not right now" or "Coming soon." It is dark humor for sure, but it is also power. A way to say, I have seen what death is able to do. I am not afraid of it now. I am ready when I am ready. Here is a strange little way you find out about. The Ars Moriendi, the art of dying. It is a set of guides being copied and given around. especially with the middle-class people. Illustrated books that show you how to pass away well, for real. How to say you are sorry, how to say goodbye. How to take your end with grace and not much drama. Or with much drama if that is what you like. Some of them even have little woodcut picture stories, showing the dying man fighting demons by his bed. It is like a holy instruction book meets a medieval picture novel. And you know what? People really read them. In a time where half the world seems like it is just barely staying together. Having a plan for the end gives a strange kind of quiet. But not all people want quiet. Some want to be remembered. You start to see a rise in tombs. Not just graves, but big statements, marble stones. Stained glass pictures, carvings that show the gone person. Looking noble and calm, sometimes even in the middle of a prayer. As if they just stopped for all time. In towns like Florence and Avignon, there are tombs so large. You could live inside them. Some people probably do. One seller asks for a statue of himself, giving a coin to a poor man, just so all people know he was giving. Another has himself carved, lying in peace with angels, lifting his soul up to the sky like a medieval balloon trip. There is being proud here, for sure, but also being open to hurt. These people want to be known for something, anything. A smart person talk you will like. Was this big interest with death just heard on show? Or was it a new kind of making who you are? Did the sickness start a wave of ego? Or did it make people more aware of themselves? Some say that life before the sickness was too set. People born into roles, living by old ways. After the sickness, all at once you could shape how you were known. Not just as a farmer or a wife, but as you. There is even a quiet change in gender in all of this. Women begin to be seen more often in goodbye art. Not just as sad widows or unknown saints, but as thinkers, healers, mothers, workers. Some are shown reading or holding tools, or sitting on thrones next to their husbands. It is small, but it is new. And you get the feeling that slowly the way people see life. And its end is changing for all people, not just the lucky few. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. One evening, you go to a town that has monthly death dinners. Everyone brings a food and a story, usually about someone they lost. Sometimes it is funny, sometimes it is sad. There is wine, bread, and a lot of teary happy sounds. It is not sad, not really. It is human. Deeply, honestly human. You stay very late, long after the candles are low, listening to an old lady talk about her husband. She tells of his laugh, the way he peeled onions with his eyes shut, how he always did not remember the names of their goats. I do not want to forget, she says, and I do not want him to be forgotten either. And that is really the main part of it, is it not? In a world where death came so fast and so meanly, people are doing all the things they can to make it slow down, to give it a shape, to make it mean something. So you find yourself thinking about your own death, more than you would like to say. Not in a sad way, just in a useful way. Where would you want to be put to rest? Who would remember you? Would anyone light a candle or leave a note? Or carve something pretty good into your stone? You have not chosen a spot yet, but you have thought about it. Maybe on a hill, under a tree, somewhere with a nice view. And a soft wind. Somewhere quiet, but not too quiet. Somewhere people might still come and sit and laugh and tell stories. Maybe not today, but one day. Because now death is not just an ending. It is something you plan for. It is something you prepare. It is something you own. The next time that you are sick, you do not worry right away. It is only a fever, a sore throat, some cold feelings. You have had worse. You put yourself in a blanket, drink a little sour water. 'Cause someone said it helps, and you wait. But a piece of you, a quiet piece, still gets tight. Because even today, a small sniffle feels like a future story. You lived through the sickness once, maybe 2 times, depending on how you count that strange spring in Bruges. But the fear does not ever fully go away. That thick, sticky feeling that holds itself around your chest. Whenever your body gets weak, you have seen what being sick can do. And more so, you have seen what medicine cannot. That is the hard part. After the Black Death, people still get sick all the time. But now they do not act like they have the answers anymore. Doctors, if you can find one, have gone from being sure to being careful. Less big talk, more sage-smelling, quiet talk. They have traded leeches for licorice, letting blood for baths. Not because they are certain it works, but because they have no better thoughts. And yet medicine is beginning to change just a little bit. You go to a city with a big school, one of the new ones, and see a smart person who is looking at anatomy. Using, get this, real bodies, not just sheep or pigs. Or that one time with the not-so-good arm. Real human dead bodies, quietly. Of course, the church still has its thoughts. But people are starting to say that knowing the human body might need more than Latin prayers and jars of pee. There is a pull, though, between what is old and what is new. Between the herb people with their poultices and charms, and the smart people with their old scrolls, and more strange dissections. You go to a healer who waves some smoke over your head and tells you your bile is too wanting. You go to another who says it is all about unbalanced heat and tells you to have crushed pearls in wine. You do not know who is correct, but the wine helps, so that is a thing. Doctors still have on those beaky masks in some places. You thought it was only a sickness thing, but it seems not. The masks are full of herbs, lavender, mint, rue, and meant to stop the bad air or miasma. You put one on one time. It smells like a haunted herb place and makes you look like a sad bird. But you can see why people like it. It is safe, symbolic, almost nice, a wearable dream of safety. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:41 a.m. One odd fact, in some cities, barber surgeons start to also be dentists, executioners, and bathhouse bosses, which means the same man might take out your tooth, cut your hair, lance your boil, and then go cut someone's head off before lunch. Doing many things at its best. But here is where it becomes interesting. The people who really begin to get notice are not the doctors in coats with royal names. It is the midwives, the apothecaries, the local wise ladies. They were always here quietly doing their work, bringing babies, setting bones, making teas that do not taste like feeling bad. But after the sickness, how much they mean becomes so clear. You go to a town where the most trusted medical person is a lady named Anselma. No paper, no Latin. Just many years of passed down knowing. And a great rose hip drink. She treats hurts with honey, makes fevers better with willow bark, and once made a poultice that they say cured a man of sadness. That was stuck to the spleen. The town loves her. The priest puts up with her. And you. You keep her name in your back pocket, just in case. But with love comes doubt. Not all people are happy with healers who do not answer to bishops. Or big schools. Whispered bad talks rise. She talks to spirits. She has too many cats. She fixed old Jacob's limp too fast. You can see how this will go. Healing and bad belief walk a very, very thin line. That brings you to a slow fear that starts to whisper. Through Europe in the time after the sickness. Witchcraft. People are desperate for reasons. Why did some live and others pass away? Why did this town live while that one was gone? When answers are hard to find, blame is easy. And often that blame is put on women, especially the ones with too much knowing, too much being on their own, or just a little bit of a strange smile. The church begins to write down what is sorcery. You hear quiet talk of inquisitions, of trials. Not big fear yet, but the start is being made. You go through a town where someone was burned for putting a hex on the cows. The cows seemed just fine to you, maybe just not in a good mood. There is a smart person talk burning under all this. Did the sickness start the rise of medical realness? Or did it make people go deeper into superstition? The answer, sadly, seems to be both. For every healer trying things with herbs, there is a priest, burying a statue to stop sickness. For every smart person cutting up bodies, there is a town, praying over a well to make it holy again. And you learn to stand between both worlds. A little sage for the fever, a little prayer just in case. You keep a bit of rosemary over your door, not because it is known to do anything, but because it makes you feel better. Sometimes that is all you need. Hospitals are changing too. Not the big clean ones we know today, but small buildings, where the sick are cared for with something close to order. Some are run by holy groups, others by cities, trying to stop the next big sickness. They are still more about comfort than about cure. But hey, clean sheets and hot soup help a lot. One night, you help bring a boy with a fever to the town's sick house. The nurse, an old monk with shaky hands, thanks you and gives you a bit of dried apple. We are better than we were, he says, eyes tired but kind. Still do not know what we are doing, but we are trying. And that is really the story of medicine now. Less sure, more curious, still full of wild ideas, but with a growing knowing that maybe, just maybe, the body is a puzzle worth figuring out, not a punishment to have. You get better, by the way. The fever goes away. Whether it was the herbs or the prayers or the wine, no one can tell. But the next time someone sneezes near you, you still hold your breath just for a second. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11:41 a.m. It comes in quietly, almost like it is shy. To be seen right now. The world is still hurt, walking slow through sadness. And all at once, someone begins to carve a statue. Not of a skeleton or a saint, but of a naked man, standing in perfect straightness, arms out wide, like he is seeing how big the world is. And for the first time in a long time, people stop not to be sad, but to wonder. They call it Renaissance. You do not know that word yet. It has not yet come into your words. But you can feel it. Something is moving. People are finding old books, copying old words, saying lines from long-gone smart men who had names, like Cicero and Galen, and did not know a thing about fleas or the old way of life. It is like someone pulled away a dusty cloth and remembered that humans can think. You see it first in Florence. That city hums with a different kind of power. There is still the normal medieval mess. Muddy paths, strange meat pies, the odd loud fight between sellers. But now there is art in the corners, chalked pictures on walls, poems put on trees, a boy saying verses in Latin, while he juggles oranges. You blink and all at once you are around color, movement and thoughts that are not all about doom. You hear talk of a man named Petrarch, someone who wrote notes to dead Romans and said, "It was not being wild, it was looking up to them." People laugh, but they also copy him. All at once, everyone wants to find the smarts of the old people. The phrase, "back to the sources," gets thrown about like little bread bits. Monks begin to unroll old scrolls, brush away the dust, and see, hey, some of this is really very smart. Big schools become curious again, less into proving. How many angels can dance on a pin's head? And more into how the human body really works. People are reading not just about God, but about logic, medicine. Building star reading. You see a young man writing notes about how birds fly, and thinking if humans might one day do the same. You do not have the heart to tell him no. That is the strange thing about this time in history. It is not very loud. It does not show up with flags and horns. It shows up in curious questions, in notebooks, in lines of poetry put into love notes. It grows slowly in the minds of smart people, artists, and yes, even traders and bakers who all at once want their children to learn Greek. And art. Oh, art is changing. You go through a big church being fixed and see something is off. One of the colored glass pictures does not show a saint. It shows a seller holding a book, on his knees for sure, but definitely proud. He paid for the window, and now he wants to be in the window. Being proud, maybe, but also a quiet statement. I matter. My work matters. More and more pictures of people begin to show up. Real ones. Not just perfect saints with shiny foreheads, but real people with bent noses, wrinkled foreheads, and not so sure smiles. People want to be known as they are, not as how they should look in the sky. One day you see a painting in a small Florentine shop. A Madonna, yes, but she is warm, real. She has curves, softness, and her eyes watch you. Not like judging, but like knowing. There is a baby on her lap who really looks like a baby. Not a small adult. It hits you in the gut. You stand there too long. The artist gives you bread. You take it. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11:41 a.m. You hear names said low like spells. Giotto, Masaccio, Brunelleschi. Men making walls into windows to the soul. And women too, though their names do not go as far. Nuns painting pretty letters in convents. Poets writing with other names. Thinkers quietly moving the chess pieces of this new time without big shows. The smart person talk begins to get hot. Is this really a new birth of old smarts? Or just a lucky run of rich givers and clever artists? riding the wave of empty space after the sickness. Some say the Renaissance was going to happen. Others say it needed a hurt big enough to shake the dust off your Ope's brain. The Black Death, as sad as it was, cleared the table for something else to grow. You see a seller who tells you he gives money to artists now, instead of just spice traders. One feeds the body, the other feeds the soul, he says with a smile, chewing almonds like a smart man. You are not sure which soul he is feeding, but his sculpture garden is very nice. And it is not just art and books. Building starts to stretch its arms. People build with harmony in their minds, sameness, balance, size. Churches begin to look less like strong places and more like invitations. Arches get wider, light comes in. Everything breathes a bit more easy. One strange little Renaissance jewel. In Milan, a man makes an early design for a machine to grind lenses, not for war, for seeing. He dreams of small glass circles that can help the old read for longer. You try on a pair. They do not work yet, but you smile anyway. The thought is beautiful. There is danger, too. Of course, not everyone likes this new way of thinking. Some church men call it being too proud. Humanism, they say with a sneer, as if thinking about human beings, is a bad thing. And to be honest, they are not wrong to feel worried. Once people begin to question one thing, like if saints must be thin and floaty, they start to question everything. But you do not see a fight in it. You see curiosity, a quiet, strong hunger to know more. To make more, to be more than just people who lived. You pass a school one afternoon and hear children saying lines from Ovid badly. One kid picks his nose while another says metamorphosis. Like it is a bad word. But still you stop and listen. 100 years ago, that would have been a thing you could not think of. Now it is just Tuesday. You may not live long enough to see the Renaissance in its full bloom. It will take many years to fully be seen. But tonight, you sit under a sky that people are beginning to map with rightness instead of with old stories. You hold a book copied by candlelight. You eat food made with thought, not just living. And for the first time in a long while, you do not think only of death. You think of what comes next. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. There is a saying you hear thrown about the buying place in Florence. All paths lead to a fight. Okay, maybe you just made that up, but the feeling is there. Because the Renaissance is not just a quiet new birth, full of soft lights and Greek scrolls. It is also a big political show. And you are now living in the most messy, most tricky reality show medieval Europe can give you. The rise of the Italian city-states. You have walked your way into a world that is run on coin, on being clever and really well-made shirts. Florence, Venice, Milan, Genoa, and a few others. They are not just cities. They are things full of wealth, big wants, and so much dramatic feeling, it might as well have music. Each one wants to be the most bright, most rich, most smart, and most meant by God to lead Italy into a great future. Sound like something you know. Florence, your home for now, is thick with the smell of ink leather and pride that is barely held back. The Medici family is coming up, using banking. Like it is a kind of fighting. You have never seen so many coins in one spot, and you are not even let in the bank. But their money is all over, in pictures and cathedrals, in the poets saying sonnets in the open space for tips and praise. The Medici do not rule in a real way, of course. Florence is still a republic, but all people know. Who is really moving the strings? Cosimo de' Medici walks through the square like a man, who owns both the view and the light. And in many ways, he does. Milan is different. Colder, more like steel, less like soft cloth. The Visconti and later the Sforza families rule there. Less art, more armor. You go there one time, and it is like walking into a military show. That is acting like a city council meeting. People talk in short words and look too long. You do not stay. Venice, on the other hand, seems like a hot dream. It floats for real on water and on big wants. The Doge has on a hat that looks like a pastry and lives in a palace that shines like a jewelry box. Everything smells like sea salt and sweet smoke. The markets sell spices you cannot say. And you once saw a man buy a peacock just because it went with his coat. You are not sure if Venice is real. Each city-state is its own kingdom in all but its name. And they are always making plans against each other. Deals are made, broken, written again, and rebroken. Sides change like the blowing wind. One week, Florence and Milan are friends. The next, they are paying mercenaries to burn each other's food plants. Everyone is worried. Everyone spies on everyone. You give a letter one time that turns out to be in a secret code. You have no idea what it was about, but the person who got it gave you a chicken. So you did well. Here is a strange fact. The rise of city-states also makes a whole new kind of work, of professional letter writers, message givers, and fakers. It is the best time for passive, aggressive writing. You see one man whose full-time work is to write nice letters, for people too worried to do it themselves. Never miss a well-put good word, he tells you, dipping his quill in a big way, especially if it is in Latin. And it is not just politics and poison. This big fight spills over into art, building, and science. If Florence builds a cathedral top, Milan has to build a taller one. If Venice asks for a painting of the Madonna, Genoa wants two. And theirs had better have gold leaf. Even goodbyes become big shows. You see one parade where the gone person's coffin is held by 12 men dressed as apostles, followed by a group of orphans singing a new hymn. The crowd claps. You join in, a bit confused. This fighting is not just for show, though. It makes things move forward. Artists and thinkers go from city to city, following the money and the work. An architect might draw in Bologna in the morning, then get on a mule to Padua for a night talk. Everyone wants talent. Everyone wants to be remembered. Tarabai 8/13/2025 46 a.m. Smart person talk time. Did the big competition between city-states make the Renaissance go faster? Or did it just make all things more messy? Some say the wealth and fighting made the perfect time for a cultural big show. Others say it broke up Italy, making it take longer to come together. You do not know. But watching sculptors fight with marble and poets insult each other in rhyming words is very fun. But there is a darker thing under it all too. the beauty and smarts you see on top. It is all paid for by hurting people. Guilds are very hard on people from outside. Taxes are harder on the poor than anyone says. And while the rich ask for palaces, the sick still pass away. In back alleys, you once help a sick girl find her way to a public hospital, only to be sent away because her family owed money. Giving starts at home, the worker mutters. You almost throw your shoe at him. Still, there is something that pulls you to these cities. You can feel the thoughts moving through the air like sweet smells. People talk about Play-Doh over breakfast. A goldsmith might also be a part-time star reader. You hear someone say that the moon changes moods, and no one laughs. You get bits of translated Arabic words being read out loud in cafes. And someone compares Greek tragedy to local politics. It is all very sweaty and smart. Here is a strange detail for your sleeping brain. One Florentine smart man says that great thinkers are born only when the stars line up just right. He is working on a birth chart for the city itself. You nod and walk away before he asks for your date of birth. Last time someone made you a chart, it said, watch out for goats and fights over who gets what. Still trying to figure that one out. Even with all the drama, the cities pulse with life. You walk on stone streets at sunset and hear music coming from windows. You see dark shapes dancing behind silk curtains. You pass a drinking place where someone is loudly saying the first lines of the Divine Comedy, badly but with feeling. There is wine, oil lamps, fresh figs on a plate. And in that moment, it does not matter who is ruling the city or who is fighting with whom. You are here. You are breathing. You are seeing the slow, new birth of wonder. One beautifully fighting city at a time. And tomorrow, you might go to Venice. Or maybe stay in Florence and paint a goose for money. Either way, the future feels alive. You do not want to say anyone is a witch. But the bread did blow up. Not in a big way, just enough to make the oven door open wide. And the chickens start to scream. The woman who made it, Magda, who lives at the edge of the town, and talks to trees when she thinks no one is looking, just shrugs and says the yeast was ready, but still. It is one of those times where you look at a neighbor and quietly ask, did that seem a little bit like magic to you? Or am I just feeling hungry? The thing is, in a post-sickness world, strange is all over. So much has gone on that people have stopped acting, like they know how anything works. And when you do not know something, you fill the empty parts, usually with blame. That is when the witch talk begins. It is quiet at the start, just whispers. A goat passes away, a child gets a fever, a cow stops giving milk. And all at once, everyone is looking at the midwife's herb garden. Like it is a small hellmouth. You hear quiet talk of unnatural knowing, evil eye. And the always suspicious line, she does not go to church enough. Never mind that the church smells like old wet stuff and feeling bad. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11, 46 a.m. You hear the first real bad talk 2 towns away. A widow known for her salves and late-night walks is brought to the judge after someone says, her soup made them see things. You have had her soup. It does taste a bit like regret and rosemary, but not at all demonic. Still, fear makes a good rope, and people are making it tighter. What is wild is that witchcraft was not really the biggest problem before. Sure, people believed in bad words and spells, but it was not a planned fear. It was more folk tales, more bedtime story stuff. But after the sickness, all at once people need reasons. Real bad guys, someone to blame for the mess they just barely lived through. Because if not, they have to accept that death can just come. And no one wants that kind of freedom. Here is your strange fact. In some places, people really blamed the sickness on witches. Long after it was done, they said that some women, usually poor, not married, and just a bit too on their own, had cast spells to make wells bad or call sickness. Never mind that they drank from those same wells. Logic is not often asked to these talks, and the bad talks do not follow any rules. One woman is blamed because her garden did too well. Another because she healed someone who was not supposed to get better. One poor soul gets pulled in for seeming smug after a neighbor's roof fell in. You would think that after all this hurt, people would be more kind. But no. Sadness often acts like rage, and now it has a new outfit. You go through a town having its first witch trial. It is sadly like a show. The blamed person is tied and brought to the square. A priest waves incense. Someone reads a list of bad things that include talking to a crow and knowing the weather too soon. You stand in the back feeling sick, not because of the bad talks, but because people seem to like it. There is a show part, a chance to feel right, in a world that still seems wrong. Here is the smart person talk. Were witch hunts really about belief, or were they about power? Some say they were tools for keeping social ways, especially against women who did not stay in line. Others think it was group fear, hurt leaking out sideways. Through superstition. You have seen enough to know it is probably both. People are scared, angry, and desperate to be right about a thing. And the church, of course, starts to make things official. Manuals show up. Inquisitors come. Someone writes a guidebook on how to see a witch, full of questions like, have you danced naked under the moon? And do cats follow you for no reason? By those rules, half your town is a suspect, including you. That cat has been here for weeks, and you for sure danced near a pond once. It was hot and you were bored. In Germany, France, Switzerland, the fear spreads like smoke. Trials start, then burnings, executions become public shows. You watch one from a hilltop far away and swear you can smell the ash. You try not to think of it, but it follows you. Sticks in your clothes, lives in the back of your throat. But here is the part that really shakes you. Most of the blamed are just normal herbalists, widows, healers, midwives. People who gave comfort when the sickness came, who mixed teas and said prayers and tried to stitch things back together. And now they are the ones being punished for living, for knowing things. You see a woman named Aldegund, gray-haired and sharp-eyed. She helps you with a hurt ankle, then tells you to watch where you walk. They have started counting the women who read, she says. And they do not like it when we get too many. You ask if she is scared. She nods, but then she smiles and gives you a charm. Made of rowan and string. Just in case, she says. You carry it in your pocket for weeks. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. Not everyone joins the big fear. Some towns say no to blaming. Others hide those who have been picked. Quiet acts of fighting back. A town in Bohemia takes in 3 blamed women. and acts like they do not know where they went. The local priest does not see. A seller spreads a story that the inquisitor has lice, just to get them time. You do not forget that. Here is something strange but interesting. Some areas begin to see witches, not just with evil, but with old knowing, pre-Christian, earth-based, feminine. A whisper of something older than cathedrals and saying sorry. You find a book hidden in an apothecary cellar, hand-copied old at the edges, full of symbols, herbal recipes, and moon calendars. You are not sure what it is, but you take notes. The world feels like it is tipping. People want power, and they are making their grip tight. But with every trial, every burning, every whispered bad talk, they are also making more people to question, to wonder, to fight back. Quietly, carefully. And you keep walking that line between belief and doubt. Between quiet and song, between the fire and the forest. Because you have seen what happens when fear takes charge. And you are not letting it drive. You hear of it before you see it. A kind of a buzz. Not the insect sort, but the human sort. Like bees made of talk and big wants. People talking fast, eyes bright, hands moving around. As if their thoughts are too loud. RGE to stay inside. It begins with a story. A machine that can make books quicker than any scribe. You blink. Books fast. That is like saying bread that bakes on its own. Sounds like it cannot be. Sounds like a danger. And then one day, you really see it. You are in Mainz, a city that smells like ink and wet rock. And there is a shop hidden between a candle maker and a place that sells only bells. Inside is a man named Johannes Gutenberg, looking more like a blacksmith than a smart person, around gears, wood frames, metal letters, and sheets of smudged paper. He calls it a press, a printing press. And it does not seem like much, but then you see it work. Piece by piece, he puts words together, not written, but stamped. Line by line, page by page, he presses them onto paper. With a machine sigh and the weight of future history. What would take a scribe a month, this thing does in a day. And with fewer spelling mistakes. Your mouth really gets dry. The thought is so simple, it is rude. Movable type, letters you can use again, ink, pressure. And just like that, books can make more like rabbits after spring rain. The scribes are already making their quills sharp in protest. But the change is going too fast. This thing is not just a machine. It is a spark, and sparks spread. Within a few years, presses are showing up in other cities. Cologne, Strasbourg, Venice. Books that once cost a year's pay are all at once. Able to be had by bakers, brewers, and even a curious shepherd. If he has a few coins and good eyesight. You see a boy who trades 3 chickens for a book of Psalms and acts like he hit the lottery. People begin to read out in the open. You walk through a square and see someone reading out loud to a group of children. You stop at a drinking place and the man behind the bar is looking through. A printed list of herbal fixes, squinting and talking low. So that is how you spell comfrey. Even the priest has a printed Bible now, and he keeps looking at it. Like it might say something else than the one he knows by heart. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. It is not just Bibles, though. It is poetry, medical tips, astronomy charts, dirty jokes, fake miracle tales, recipes, political papers. and letters from lovers acting like they are saints. You read a poem written by a woman in Paris and feel your stomach turn. It is beautiful, sad, and she never would have had a crowd before this press showed up. Now her words are on the same shelf as Cicero. Here is a strange little detail. Some early printed books come with spaces that are empty, so artists can still by hand make the letters pretty. A deal between old and new, half machine, half magic. 1 foot in the past, 1 in the future. But not all people are happy. The church begins to get worried. And not just because Bibles are all at once getting in the hands of people who did not go to a special school. There is a fear, quiet at the start, that thoughts are about to get free. 'Cause if a book can say anything, then in the end, someone is going to print the wrong thing, something dangerous, something heretical. You hear a priest talking low that books are like fires. Good for warmth, he says, but too many. And you burn down the house. You do not tell him you have already read 3 banned poems. And a paper called The Pope Has Cold Feet. And other signs of the apocalypse. Probably best not to say it. And then there is the big smart person talk of the day. Will printing make humans better or make them less? Some smart people worry that if everyone can read, knowing will lose its worth. Like too much honey in wine, it spoils the taste. Others say the exact opposite, that this is being saved. Through literacy, a chance for people to think, to question, to choose what they believe instead of just getting it. You see a young woman in Venice who runs a small printing shop. With her brother, she is strong, funny, and smells for good of ink. Printing is like bread, she says. The more people have it, the less they will take scraps. You buy a copy of The Consolation of Philosophy from her and spend 2 weeks trying to know what it really says. You still do not really get it, but the sides are full of notes from someone named Paulo who had thoughts. You respect that. And that is another thing, margins. People are writing in books now, questioning, commenting, sometimes fighting with the author. It is like the books are alive, part of a long talk, that no one has power over anymore. The author does not get the final word. The reader does. One strange good thing from all this, people begin to make spelling the same. Finally, you have seen the word physics, spelled 7 different ways, in one handwritten text. Now the printed version makes a standard. And though it is still strange, at least it is strange in the same way. And with more books comes more schools. Not just for monks or sons of sellers, but slowly, bit by bit. For girls, for apprentices, for the curious and the stew. Be born. You pass a classroom one day and hear a girl saying Cicero, in Latin with more sureness than the teacher. You almost clap. You also see the bad side. The flood doors open, and not everything that comes out is wise or good. False cures, political bad talk, religious hate. A man tries to sell you a book, saying that eating boiled frogs makes you live forever. You politely say no. He says you must, you run. There is talk in drinking places now. Real talk. People quoting books at each other, slamming mugs down, yelling about ethics and money and the shape of the earth. You do not know if they are right, but they are thinking. That means something. You sit under a tree one night, a borrowed book in your lap, and listen to the wind. In the distance, you hear a press working. It is soft clunk, hiss, roll, like a heartbeat made of gears. A sound that did not exist just years ago. A sound that now sounds across Europe, spreading thoughts like seeds. The sickness quieted half the world. But this is the sound of it learning to talk again. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. There is a smell moving through the village square that you cannot quite know. It is not manure, not smoke, not wet wood, not the normal things. It is warm, salty, and strangely nice. You follow it with your nose first until you get to a stall. Run by a man with flour on his sleeves and grease on his smile. He gives you a small pasty thing wrapped up in linen and says it is new, it is food. You bite it with care. It is flaky. It is mighty. And for one time in your life, it is not as bland as boiled socks. You almost cry. Something has changed. You are eating better. You do not quite know it at first. For so long, food was about living. Bread, onions, maybe cheese if you had luck. Pottage, a mush of whatever could be put into a pot, and stirred until it did not look like anything you knew. Was your best friend. But after the Black Death, with so many less mouths to feed, and so much more land not being used, the numbers changed. It is not quite a big meal, but for once, people are not hungry. There is less fighting for things. More grassland means more animals, and not just the thin, sad goats of the past. Real cattle, pigs, even some birds that do not look like feathered skeletons. You try your first cooked chicken that is not just bone and feeling bad. And it tastes like a wonderful thing. And wheat. Oh, great wheat. With fewer workers needed to farm for the top people. More people get to have better quality grain. That means better bread. Not the heavy, sour kind that hurts your tooth and bothers your dreams. But bread that gets big, bread that is fluffy. Bread that smells like something you might follow into a woods. And butter. People are putting butter on things now. You find yourself eating meals that come with real taste. Herbs, spices. You once heard of cinnamon in a story and thought it was not real. Now someone is putting it into wine and calling it healing. It burns your nose a little bit, but you keep drinking. Strange history fact for you. In some places, people begin to try out what are basically the first cookbooks. Papers full of recipes for foods with names like pigeon and almond sauce and sweetened parsnip surprise. The amounts are wild. Mostly handfuls and not clear amounts like until it looks done. But the wish is there. Cooking is not just a need anymore. It is art. A social sign, a reason to show off. You go to a town where the boss throws a big party to celebrate a bridge being open again. There is music, torches, trays of food. Some of it still you do not know what it is, but it is served on clean wood boards. And someone thought to put it with dried fruit. You eat until your belt says no, then lie in the grass, watching the stars, thinking how something so basic. Eating can feel like a gift. With better food comes better health, strangely. Not that germs are gone. They are not, trust me. But stronger bodies mean more strength. Fewer children are dying when they are young. More old people are walking around with strangely good posture. You see a man who is 90 and still shoes chickens like it is a sport. Of course, not all things are perfectly good for you. Sugar is starting to be seen more. especially in rich people's homes. You try candied almonds for the first time and know right away why someone would go to war over trade paths. They crunch, they melt, they whisper secrets to your soul. You think about selling your shoes for a second serving. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. There is still a lot of not being equal. Do not get me wrong. Not all people are eating swan with saffron or real pie, with a side of spiced pear. But the normal diet of the common people is getting better. Slowly, not the same, but for sure. Less desperation, more balance. Beans and grains are still main foods, but now they come with a little salt, maybe even a little bit of garlic. And people are starting to think about food in a different way. You hear talks in the buying place that are not just, can we eat this, but how should we make it? Recipes are shared like gossip. Boil the cabbage first, someone whispers, then fry it, trust me. You do. It is amazing. Here is the smart person talk of the time. Did the sickness directly make peasant diets better? Due to land being shared and worker shortages? Or was this just a happening that came from things that overlap? In farming and trade, some say better pay meant better food. Others say that fewer mouths meant less need on production. Either way, you are chewing on meat more often now. And that is all you really mind about. A fun fringe food fact. In some places, beer becomes safer than water. With so much water being bad, thanks to old-time sewer systems, people start drinking small beer, mild, low-alcohol brews. Even at breakfast, kids drink it, monks drink it, you drink it. And call it hydration. Cheers! With all this food excitement coming up, public parties become more normal, not just for weddings or saints' days, but as community shows. We made it through the sickness, one village old man says. Raising a cup. Now let us live a little. Someone throws a loaf of bread in the air. It is caught. There is cheering. You are given a plum and do not ask about it. You help cook at one of these parties once. It is a mess. Smoke in your eyes, people yelling for more salt. Someone burns the porridge and says it was on purpose. But by sunset, the long tables are full, and so are the bellies. There is happy sounds, music. Someone starts dancing with a ladle. It is hard to tell the feeling. You are not rich. You are not strong, but you are full. Full in a way your grandparents probably never were. Full in a way that makes your arms and legs feel heavy and your heart light. You sit with your back on a tree, hands sticky with honey, and think, this right here, this is living turned into a party. You remember the days when you ate what was left, if anything was left at all. When winter meant root foods, thin soup, and hope. But now you see gardens growing where weeds once were. Markets busy with choice. Bread, cheese, greens, even a few foreign things you cannot name. And you are learning to enjoy slow bites, warm meals, shared plates. Because after so much death, even the act of eating with others feels like a big change. You never thought you would mind about sleeves or cloth, or if your coat was made from last season's style. But here you are, standing before a mirror in a market stall, tilting your head a little, trying to see if this new robe makes you look nicely well off, or by chance too showy. And the scary part, you really care. Post-sickness Europe is getting dressed up. It begins in a small way. Shirts that hang a bit better, coats dyed just a little deeper. But then it spreads. Clothing becomes more than just a way to not be cold or scare the neighbors. It is who you are. It is your rank. It is the early kind of Instagram, but with more velvet and fewer hashtags. You remember what people once wore. Plain wool. Maybe brown, maybe darker brown. If someone was very fancy, they wore black. But now things are getting like a show. Bright blues, rich greens, patterns that look like they were made during a hot dream. The rich people are putting on layers of cloth like they are getting sins. And even normal people are using accessories with more style. You see a man walk by with a feather in his hat, so big. It could probably make him fly if the wind blew right. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. The tailors are doing well. So are the dyers, the weavers, the seamstresses. Whole guilds show up just to take care of the big need. Silk sellers begin to travel like rock stars. Someone says silk is from worms, and you try not to think of it while looking at your new sash. Clothes are all at once saying things not with words, but with colors, cuts, and layers. A tight doublet says, "I have money and I am not scared to choke." A big sleeve says, "I have land and I want you to see my arms." Pointed shoes so long they bend up at the end say, "I am rich enough to wear shoes that are not useful." You try on a pair one time, you fall over your own feet, and almost land in a barrel of pickled onions. So maybe not your style. Here is a fun history strange thing. Sumptuary laws begin to show up like mushrooms after a rain. These are rules that say what people can and cannot wear, based on their social place. Basically, if you are a seller, you cannot dress like a duke. If you are a tanner, you cannot wear scarlet. If you are a worker and somehow get into velvet, someone will ask questions and probably make you pay money. The logic is simple. Keep the social way the same, but the result funny. You hear tales of tailors being taken away because their clients wore clothes that were not allowed in public. One woman is made to pay for wearing sleeves that are too fancy. You see a farmer's son who is asked out his boots, given to him by a dead knight cousin. He tells you this while cleaning the boots, smiling with pride. Worth it, he says. People start to find ways around it. You dye your shirt almost scarlet. You wear linen with just enough shine to seem like silk in the moonlight. You make your hem a bit shorter, not enough to be shocking, just enough to show you are sure. It is a game and all people are playing. And fashion does not end with cloth. Hair becomes a fighting place. Men grow it long, short, curled, oiled, or with little hats that sit like judging birds on their heads. Women's hairstyles get taller, wider, and more shaped. You see a woman whose hair is braided so tight it looks like basket weaving. She cannot turn her head all the way, but she looks so good. Accessories blow up too. Brooches, girdles, belts with metal work so nice. You look at them longer than is probably okay. Pouches hang from waists like small purses. Gloves become a way to flirt. You drop one in a drinking place and someone gets it. Like you just asked to marry them. You do not marry them. One strange detail that gets your eye. In some cities, fashion is directly linked to being good. Clergy begin to talk against being proud and lustful dress. They rant about low necklines and doublet padding. Like it is the main reason for society falling apart. You listen to one talk where the priest blames fur-lined coats for asking for sin. Half the people are wearing fur-lined coats. No one moves. And of course, fashion has its politics. Rich people use it to show power. Sellers use it to act like they are rich people. Young people use it to bother their elders. Widows use it to remind you they have lived. Clothing becomes armor, art, and fighting back, all stitched together with string and big wants. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. The smart person talk. Did the rise of post-sickness fashion mark the birth of modern buying culture? Some say yes. As people got wealth and could move, they started spending. Not just on living, but on style. Others say it was just a time. Hurt people playing dress up to get back joy. You are not sure. But when you put on a well-made coat and see a reflection in a bucket of rainwater, you do feel better. One afternoon, you help a friend sew their first new shirt in years. It is just wool, rough and plain. But when they put it on, they stand more straight. You see it in their face, the quiet pride. The feeling of getting something back. Dignity, presence, a self not known by sickness or being poor, but by choice. That night, you sit by a fire wearing your own freshly washed coat. A bit too long and for sure too warm. Smells of smoke and rosemary. You listen to the talk around you. Happy sounds, teasing, one man bragging about his new leather boots. Like he just made up footwear. And you say something. People are seen again. For so long, everyone tried to go away. To stay out of the eye of death, to stay under notice. To live by blending in. But now people want to be seen. And maybe that is the most fashionable choice of all. You walk by a castle one morning and see something odd. No guards at the gate, no horses in the barn. The big bridge is down, not watched, and the moat looks more like a still ditch than a defensive wall. You stop, squint at the high stone walls, and see the truth. The place is not empty, but it is old-fashioned. It seems castles are going out of fashion. It happens slowly, like all big changes do. 1 minute they are the sign of wealth, power, and you cannot come in here unless I let you. The next they are just very large, very cold stone houses that do a terrible job against gunpowder. Yes, gunpowder. That spicy black dust, first used for fireworks in China, at last makes its way west and starts showing up in more main settings. Cannons at first seem like new things. Loud, costly, mostly scary to the people who use them. But then someone points one at a castle wall and sees it crack. Not dent, not chip, crack. And all at once, everyone is asking the same question. Wait, does this mean we are not safe anymore? Spoiler. Yes, it does. You watch the change happen over years. The normal feudal strong place, high towers, small slits for archers. Romantic ivy becomes more of a problem than a defense. They were not made to stand up to constant hard force. And once a few rich men see their loved keeps broken to bits in under an hour, the building mood changes in a big way. Enter the fortress too. Lower walls, thicker bases, angles made to push away cannonballs. Instead of asking for archers, Moats are still a thing because mud is timeless. But now it is all about geometric shapes. Star forts, they will call them in the end. Right now, they just look like angry hedgehogs carved into the land. You find work one time on a building crew, helping to make a town's walls stronger. With new outer earth banks. It is backbreaking, muddy work. One man swears the whole time. Another says quiet PR. Ires, but they are building not for pride, but for living. The gun does not care how noble your blood is, one of them says. Hammering a spike into its place. It just knocks you down. And it is not just castles that change. War itself is changing. You remember when fights were mostly sword and shield things. Loud, messy, personal. Knights in shiny armor yelling things like, "Hold the line." Or "For the realm." It all felt like a show, like someone should be making. Background loot music. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11, 46 a.m. But now, soldiers carry long weapons that spit fire and smoke. They reload in a strange way, squint down barrels, and wipe black powder from their eyes. It is clumsy and loud, but it is good. And it does not care if you are wearing chain mail or just hoping for the best. Armor starts to go away, too. First, it gets thinner. Then, in some places, it is gone for good. Why spend a lot of money on a shiny breastplate when a bullet goes through it anyway? One night you meet an older knight, bitter, smelling a bit of leather and wine, who is sad about the change. Used to be a man got respect with a blade, he says. Now any farm boy with a musket can drop a noble. You nod nicely and go on before he starts singing about the good old days. Here is a strange history change. As castles become less useful for war, some get made into houses. Big, drafty, not comfortable homes, but homes all the same. Tapestries are put up to hide the cracks. Fancy fireplaces take the place of arrow slits. Someone even puts glass in the windows. You go to one once. It is like living inside a slightly haunted museum. But the wine is good. Meanwhile, cities are taking the main spot. You notice more stone walls around towns, more organized groups of soldiers, more judges yelling orders at anyone with a sharp stick. Power is moving from the rural lords to the city bosses. And you can feel the worry in the noble circles. They have dances and parties and try to act like nothing is changing. But they know. Everyone knows. There is a smart person talk making the rounds. Was gunpowder the real end of chivalry? Some say yes. That when fighting became less personal, so did the thoughts. Around honor and being brave. Others say that chivalry was already a dying flower. Too costly and too not useful for the gritty truths of plague-hit Europe. Either way, the knightly class is going down. And you have stopped acting that shiny armor means anything. More than good light. Another strange ripple effect. Fewer castles mean fewer alone villages. Lords cannot hide behind their stone walls now. So they are more in local life, whether they like it or not. You see more of them at markets. Some even work the fields in a strange way, in slightly too clean shirts. A few are changing, finding new roles as landowners or money people. Others sulk and gamble and talk low about when men were men. You offer them cheese. They say no. One day you go to a ruin, a castle that was tall in your childhood. now just a skeleton of stone. Ivy wraps its bones. The once proud keep is a nesting place for birds. And the odd goats. You walk the empty halls, touch the cold walls, and remember what it felt like to believe this place was not able to be beat. It was not. But maybe that is not a sad thing. Maybe it is just time. The world is not ending. It is just trading in towers for terraces, swords for strategy, pride for being useful. Castles fall apart, but cities rise, shields fall, but ideas take their place. And you, walking through the dust and echoes, know that nothing made to last ever really does. Still, you pick up a loose stone from the roof and put it in your bag. Not because it is useful, but because some part of you wants to remember what it felt like when the wall still stood. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11:46 a.m. You are in a town that does not smell like rot. That is the first thing that you notice. Not the smell of lavender or bread or beeswax candles, though those are here too, but the full lack of the usual. No human waste going down open gutters. No butchers, leftover bits being fought over by dogs and flies. The air is fresh, clean, almost strange. Like you have walked into a place that forgot its medieval. It seems you have found a town that has taken on something new. Public health. Now do not get too happy. It is not modern cleaning. No one is doing surgeries with gloves or boiling their water yet. But something has for sure changed since the worst days of the sickness, when the streets were rivers of dirt and you had to step over a dead body to buy onions. People are at last seeing that where you live, what you breathe, drink, and step in is important. Cities and towns still bothered by the thoughts of big graves. And empty homes are starting to look around and go, you know what, maybe we should not just throw our waste out the window. You hear words like ordinance and regulation being thrown around at council meetings. And yes, it is still mostly men with money making the choices. But they are talking about drainage, not just taxes. One town even hires a person full-time to sweep the streets. A muck man. You meet him one time. He has a shovel, a strong back, and the 1,000-yard look of someone who has seen things no one should ever have to see. Here is a strange little history jewel. Some cities begin to make pavement laws. If you own a shop, you are in charge of keeping the area in front of it clean. If you do not, you get fined. And all at once, cobblestones you once fell over are being cleaned with vinegar and covered in sand to soak up the bad smell. Vinegar. You never thought you would be thankful for such a sour, stingy smell. Sewers are still basic, mostly open channels or wood gutters. But at least they are being made. You go through Florence and see men digging ditches, with grim sureness, laying brickwork for a water drainage system. That does not rely all on divine help. It is muddy, slow work, but new in its own quiet way. And water, blessed, is at last getting some notice. Wells are being covered. Fountains are checked. In places with aqueducts, maintenance crews now are here. Sure, they are underpaid and underfed, but they are there. You talk with one man in Avignon whose job is for real, to taste the town's water every single day. If I drop dead, you know it is bad, he jokes. You both laugh a little too hard. You also see changes in houses. People are starting to think about air. Not just the religious kind, but real airflow. Buildings get windows that open. Roofs are angled for air to move. You help a friend build a chimney and see how nice it is. Not to live inside a smoke cloud. And there is a new buzzword going from town to town. Quarantine. You remember when it first began during the sickness. Ships made to wait offshore before coming in. People kept in their homes under guard. Back then it felt like being desperate. Now it is changing into a policy. In port cities like Venice, whole buildings are set aside for travelers to wait out a possible illness. They call them lazarettos. You walk by one on the edge of the water, a large, low building, with barred windows and a smell like disinfected linen, and see it as one of the first tries to keep the sick from the healthy on purpose. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. It is not perfect. There are still big sicknesses, still hurting. But at least now there is a try. You no longer have to whisper about the air being bad. Officials are saying it out loud. Scribes are writing it down. And more importantly, people are doing a thing about it. Smart person talk time. Did the sickness invent public health, or just speed up what was already starting? Some say that urban cleaning was a normal answer to growing groups of people. Others think it took a world-breaking sickness to force cities to act. You listen to both sides while washing your hands with rosemary-infused water from a shared basin and think, either way, I am not complaining. And here is a strange fact you will love. In some towns, being clean becomes fashionable. Nobles start putting in indoor privies, bathhouses. Once suspect places of sin and syphilis become symbols of being fancy again. You go to one where you are scrubbed down with goat's milk soap and offered a pear after. It is all very civilized until the hot steam makes someone faint, and you have to help them out by the armpits. Of course, not everyone is happy. Some hold on to the thought that being sick is God's punishment, and washing too much might make the heavens mad. Others think fresh air is dangerous. You see a man who will not open his windows because he is scared the devil comes in on the breeze. You politely choose not to sit next to him. But the way things are going is changing. Cities that clean up do not just feel better, they look better. People are less sick. Markets stay open for longer, and the rats seem a bit less mean. You even see a town with set trash days. They ring a bell. People bring out their waste. It is taken and dumped outside the walls. Not perfect, but moving forward. You find yourself breathing deeper in these places, sleeping better, smelling fewer scary things. It is amazing what you begin to like when your nose is not always being attacked. One evening, as you walk back from the bathhouse, wrapped in a freshly cleaned shirt, you pass a child splashing in a shallow fountain. Clean water comes from a carved lion's mouth. And for a moment, everything feels simple, possible. The world is still messy, still not strong. But now there are hands, hundreds, thousands, scrubbing, digging, mending, and reshaping it. Quietly, steadily, like hope with a mop. You are woken up before sunrise by yelling. Not the kind that means fire or an attack, but the mad, rhythmic kind. Dozens of voices going up together in a rough song of complaint. You rub the sleep from your eyes and look out the window. Of your room over the inn. Below, a crowd has come towed. There, farmers, tanners, weavers. A few women with aprons on tight and eyes sharper than any sword. They are holding torches, not because it is a riot, but because they want to be seen. They are tired. Tired of taxes, of hunger, of being told the world is healing, when they still cannot buy bread. The peasants are back. This time, not just talking low in drinking places or whispering during church. Now they are getting organized, marching, writing letters. Real letters to city bosses and local lords. Some even pay scribes to make their wants sound official. We ask for fair pay, one letter says. We want land that is not cursed with rocks and promises. It is going on all over the place again, and you have seen it before. Peasants fight here, Jackery there. But something about this time feels different. It is less like a bomb, more put together. People have learned from the last fights. They have stopped thinking change will fall from the sky. They are making it themselves. Brick by brick, complaint by complaint. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. You go to a village where the farmers who rent have started, putting their things together. 1 goat, 12 chickens, 3 acres of barley. All taken care of as a group. It is not really by the rules, but the landowner ran away during the last fever wave and has not returned. So they are making do. One woman, a widow named Agnes, does the bookkeeping like a general. We will not be poor and polite, she tells you. Slicing cheese with military rightness. You nod and take notes. Here is something strange. The nobility, once not able to be touched and far away, are starting to see. Some are really worried. Others, smarter ones, start to make deals. A few lower the rent, offer longer deals. Even agree to let peasants buy their freedom for good. You see one young baron who says he would rather lose a bit of land than his life. He raises sheep now, drinks less wine, looks almost okay. But not everyone changes. There are still lords trying to pull the past into the now, holding on to names like they are shields. One makes his peasants build him a new grain barn after a small storm. They leave it half done and go away. He threatens them with men with arms. They answer by blocking the road and not moving. That is how it starts. Quiet, not doing what you are told. No riots, no fires, just saying no. People stop coming to work, stop bringing grain, stop bowing. And when someone does get taken away, the others meet at the jail, with baskets of bread and talks of being together. Not with farming tools, at least not right now, but with stubborn, organized presence. And that is almost more scary. You sit in on one of their meetings. Just a quiet night, meeting in a barn lit by lanterns, and smelling a bit of hay and big wants. They pass around a jug of cider and talk about debts. Wages, grass, rights. One man says they should write to the bishop. A younger woman says they should write to the king. Everyone laughs, but the happy sound sounds more like a chance than making fun. Here is your smart person talk. Was this post-sickness unrest a real class waking up? Or just scattered wanting? Some say that these were early seeds of revolution. Proto-democracies growing from cow dung and barley soup. Others say it was just living in a system too broken to work. You sip the cider and think maybe both. And here is a strange little fact for flavor. In some places, peasants start to use seals on their papers. Handmade, often carved from bone or wood with signs. Like wheat bunches, plows, or hammers. They do not read Latin, but they sign with pride. They know what their mark means. Language is important now. So is documentation. You watch one village council make a charter, outlining rights and what is wanted for its workers. It is sloppy, half legal, and full of spelling mistakes. But it exists. And in this new world, that means something. Cities begin to notice, too. Urban workers want the same rights as their rural cousins. Bakers strike for better flour. Builders want pay for crushed fingers and broken backs. You see graffiti in the alley behind a guild hall. We built this city, now pay us to live in it. It is misspelled. It is also very clear. The seller class does not know what to do. They are in the middle. Richer than peasants, poorer than nobles. Some side with the workers. Others lean into wanting more, raising prices and locking their doors at night. You watch one shop owner try to charge too much for apples and get quietly boycotted for a week. By Thursday, his cart is empty and his face is pale. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. You meet a man who teaches peasants how to read deals. He does not charge a lot, just asks for meals and safe places to sleep. They used to keep us not knowing, he says. Now I teach them to write their own rules. He gives you a flyer. You cannot read half of it. But the bold top says, know what you sign. And religion, surprisingly, starts to bend. A few. Brave priests begin to give talks about justice, about dignity. They quote scripture not about doing as you are told, but about being fair. One gets kicked out, another is moved up. No one seems to know what way the wind is blowing anymore. There are still threats, of course. Whispers of crackdowns, armed patrols riding through towns, where things feel too loud, too put together. But the fear does not spread as far as it used to. People stand their ground now, not with weapons always, but with witnesses, with paper, with stubborn feet and louder voices. And you walk between both worlds. A friend to the field worker, a listener to the landowner, an accidental writer of change. You carry stories in your pack, sometimes letters, sometimes a pie. Because this is not a rebellion you can stop with a sword. This is a quiet fight, one powered by hunger, memory, and the simple, new thought that enough is really enough. You lie under the stars that night, listening to far footsteps and closer talks. Someone is talking about asking the council. Someone else is teaching their daughter how to count coins. And you see the world is not waiting for permission to change. It is already changing, one want at a time. You walk into a town square and see something odd. A group of people sitting on low wood benches, completely quiet, all looking at a man with a scroll. Not a priest, not a noble, just a man. Hair a bit wild, robes a bit wrinkled, and a voice that goes far. Like he is trying to talk to the sky. He is reading Latin badly, but with sureness. And what is wild is that people are listening. Then you see where you are. You are standing outside a university, and it does not even smell that bad. You did not mean to be here. You were just going through. But now you are watching students, real students. argue about the nature of the soul, or if Aristotle was right, about the elements, or if demons can read your thoughts. The talk is passionate, silly, and very catching. You stay for the whole thing and leave with a new thought. Stuck in your head. Maybe learning is not just for monks now. That is the thing. Since the Black Death, universities have started to show up. Like mushrooms after a rainstorm. Before the sickness, there were a few spread across Europe. Places like Bologna, Paris, and Oxford. Elitist for a few, heavy on theology. But now they are making more, spreading, changing. Places like Prague, Vienna, Krakow, cities that you once knew. For markets and strong beer are all at once becoming places of thought. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11, 46 a.m. And no, it is not some smart person's perfect place. The dorms are moldy, the talks are long. And the talks often turn into fist fights. But what matters is that more people are starting to care about knowing. Not just for the glory of God, but for the glory of being. A little less confused than yesterday. You talk to a student who is learning medicine. He has cut up 3 pigs and 1 unlucky criminal. I know where the spleen is now, he says with pride. Like he has found the secrets of the universe. You nod and offer him half your apple. He offers you a diagram in return. It is mostly scribbles, but it looks important. One strange post-sickness twist. Because so many clergy passed away and reading suffered, there is a sudden want for people who can teach. Anyone. Enter the traveling smart person. People who go from town to town, giving lessons in Latin, logic, mathematics, or even how to write your name without crying. You see one who charges a loaf of bread for each lesson. You pay double for a new lesson on fractions. Women, too, are finding cracks in the academic walls. Still mostly kept out from formal universities, but not from learning at all. You see a woman in Ghent who teaches astronomy to local sellers, so they can chart sea paths more right. She has star maps put on her ceiling and a telescope. That looks a lot like a wine jug with holes punched in it. You believe every word she says. Meanwhile, people are copying texts like their lives depend on it. Libraries, once guarded like treasure vaults, start to open their doors just a little bit wider. You spend an afternoon in one, looking through a book on natural history that has both lions and tree snakes that cry like babies. Sure, it is not all right, but you can feel the curiosity in the ink. And do not even begin on the printing press. It is now flooding universities with more text than they know what to do with. You see a cart come full of papers on legal theory, Aristotle hygiene tips, and one very hot love poem. Someone clearly put in for fun. The librarian looks overwhelmed but happy. Here is your smart person talk for the night. Did the rise of post-sickness universities signal the start of secular knowing in Europe? Or was it still just theology with better furniture? Some say that the intellectual change was already on its way, pushed by contact with the Islamic world and old texts. Others say the sickness shoe, the base of sureness so hard. People had to start rebuilding with new questions. You think it is both. Fear broke the world. Now knowing is trying to tape it back together. Tarabai 8/13/2025-11, 46 a.m. You sit in on a logic class where 2 students argue. If a cat can be both alive and dead in a box. What is a box? Someone asks. What is a cat? Says another. The professor throws up his hands and tells them to write a paper. You do not know what a paper is either, but it sounds tiring. Still, there is something that pulls you to all this thinking. People are not just saying what they were told now. They are testing it, poking at it, trying to make sense of a world that clearly does not follow the old rules. One night, you share a fire with 3 students. One studying law, one medicine, and one something they describe only as truth-seeking. They argue late into the night about if justice is a natural law or a human invention. You mostly listen, chewing dried figs and thinking how many. Other talks like this are echoing across Europe right now. And the truth is, they are all over. In churches, in libraries, in drinking places, in barns lit by candles, where someone is reading a borrowed book to a circle of listeners who do not care about paper or praise. They just want to understand something new. The universities are still far from perfect. They are not open to all people. They are still mixed up in class, gender, and the stubborn hold of tradition. But they are cracking open. And you leave that town holding a scroll you cannot quite read. But you are set on learning how, because something inside you has changed. Not just hunger for food, not just fear of death, but the need to know, and maybe someday to teach. You are following a cart on a dirt road, not because you are very interested in where it is going, but because the back of it is making music, not on purpose. It is the way the wood wheels clunk over not even stones, making a sort of thump-thump beat that mixes with bird song, and the low hum of talk ahead. The cart is for a family, or maybe a group of families, moving together, their things tied down under tarps and blankets. Chickens squawk low from under a basket. A child walks with no shoes on the side, singing a song you do not know. You see something big is happening again. People are on the move. The sickness did not just kill bodies. It pulled up communities. Whole villages went away. Families broken, land left empty, jobs not done. But now, in the long, strange time after that loss, people are moving like waves, leaving old places behind, trying to find or make something new. Moving is not messy anymore. It is planned. People think about choices. Ask around. Is there work in Ghent? What is the food gathering like in Burgundy? Are there fewer rats in Lübeck? The answers are not always right, but they spread. Passed from traveler to traveler, making a kind of whispered map of opportunity. You see a mason who has moved 4 times in as many years. He says he does not even unpack now, just keeps his tools tied up in cloth so he can go quickly. If a better offer comes, the stone does not care where I cut it, he tells you. Why should I? There is a quiet remaking of Europe happening under your feet. Not by kings or councils, but by tailors, blacksmiths, widows, shepherds. They move not because of war or being sent away, but because they can. And because for once, someone needs them more than they need the land. It is not just single people moving. Whole communities move. You walk through one village, left empty by sickness, and see it slowly being taken by new people. The old church is fixed with fresh stone. The fields once full of weeds now have neat rows of barley. The graveyard, though not touched, has new flowers put by old markers. These are not ghosts filling the town. They are survivors fixing it. Here is a strange fact you find in a port town. Whole trades are moving. Textile workers from Flanders move south. Glass blowers from Venice show up in small inland towns. Swordsmiths follow noble families across borders. It is like Europe's skill sets are being mixed up in a giant deck of cards. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. Some cities do well from the new people, others pull back. Local councils try to handle the change. Some welcome new people with open arms, giving land, tools. Even no taxes. Settle here, they promise, and we will not bother you for 5 years. Others slam the gates shut. Strangers bring trouble, they mutter, and probably more fleas. But the gates do not stay shut for long. If one town says no to growing, the one next door takes the labor. The idea's the trade. You go through a border area where the way people talk is a soup of 4 languages. And the baker sells bread shaped like a Turkish knot, filled with Polish cheese made by a woman from northern Italy. It is so good. You buy 3, a strange development. Some towns begin to give out moving papers. Basic records of where someone came from, what trade they did, and if they left their old town in a good way. It is the closest thing to a resume you have ever seen. And all at once, everyone wants one. You see a man who fakes his, saying he was once a scribe for a bishop. His Latin is terrible, but he gets the job anyway. With all this moving, cultures begin to mix in interesting ways. You go to a wedding where the bride wears a linen veil from Brittany, dances a Hungarian circle waltz, and feeds her guests dumplings. You swear came from somewhere east of Krakow. No one even looks. It is tradition, someone says, though no one is quite sure. Whose tradition? Of course, there is pull, too. Locals do not always trust new people. They are taking our jobs, a tanner says. They smell different, adds another. You nod nicely while remembering your own bath times. Have not really been consistent. But after a while, being mad often gives way to being useful. If the new guy fixes the mill or the roof or the church bell tower, people learn to like him with a grudge at first. Then for real, here is your smart person talk to fall asleep to. Did post-sickness moving weaken national identities? By making a more mixed pan-European culture. Some say yes, that borders got blurrier and languages got softer. At the edges. Others say the opposite, that as people moved, they held on tighter. To where they came from, keeping their ways more strongly. You have seen both. The woman who says she must knead bread the old way, and the boy who learns 3 languages before his 10th birthday, just to haggle better at the market. One of the strangest side effects, maps begin to get better. With more people traveling, more want grows for right roads. Distances, landmarks. You find a tattered one hidden in a seller's coat. Drawn by hand, mostly wrong, but nicely ambitious. There be wolves here, it says over a forest. Friendly baker in this town, it notes by a river. You copy it for yourself, and with moving comes stories. Tales picked up on the road, bent in the telling. Made fancy with each new telling. You sit by fires and hear of ghost ships in the Baltic. Of mountain hermits who know lost cures. Of cities made of gold and glass, that only show up to the pure of heart. You do not believe them all, but you listen always. Because moving does more than remake geography. It remakes memory. History itself becomes like water, like the people living through it. Where are you from? Where are you going? What have you seen? These questions are asked more often now, not to judge, but to know. And you find yourself walking more, not in a hurry, but with a reason. A town you never planned to go to becomes your home for 3 seasons. You mend roofs, teach someone to write their name, and fall asleep to a lullaby you have never heard before, sung in a language you barely know. It does not matter. You are part of the movement now. The gentle, stubborn rearranging of the world. By its most normal people. Not conquerors, not kings, just those who kept walking. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. The morning starts with bells. Not church bells, not wedding bells, market bells. 3 fast clangs from the tower near the guild hall, sounding down narrow, stone alleys like a call. You stretch, yawn, and walk toward the sound, along with half the town, pulled not by duty, but by curiosity. Market day again. You have begun to lose count of time in weeks, and measure it in vegetables. But this is not just about apples and eels. Markets have always been here. Sure, but what is going on now is something else. Something louder, faster, more put together. Trade is no longer a slow flow of cartwheels and swapping. It is becoming a system, an engine, a network. You are watching the rise of the seller class. It begins with the goods. Bolts of cloth from Flanders, dried figs from Greece, spices from the Levant. Objects that used to be rare and holy are now, if not common, at least able to be had. You hold a piece of silk one time, real silk, and feel your brain stop. It is so light, it is barely there. And yet, it is worth more than your whole cart. The people selling it are even more interesting. Not lords, not clergy, just well-dressed people with good handwriting. And great shoes. They talk like poets, always 3 steps ahead in both thought. And what they make. You see one seller who never raises his voice, never changes his face, and somehow walks away with a deal. That leaves everyone else a bit confused and mildly impressed. Money, too, is changing. Swapping is still around, but coins are becoming the language of what is real. You begin to see scales in every shop. Debts are written down. Ledgers show up. Little leather-bound books full of names, numbers, and the odd passive-aggressive note like refused payment again. Pray for his cow. You help copy a ledger one time. It is surprisingly juicy. Trade, as it seems, is built on trust, and trust is built on gossip. W. Ho paid late. Who watered down their wine. Who once tried to pass off dyed goat leather as imported Spanish hide. It is an economy, but also a high-stakes soap opera. Guilds are doing well. Bakers, tanners, weavers, glassmakers. Every craft you can name has a group now, full of rules, rituals, and initiations that sometimes have suspiciously spicy stew. You are not a member of any guild yourself, but you have sat in on their meetings. They talk about pay, apprenticeships, and more often than you would think. Whose nephew is messing everything up. Guilds set standards, protect their trades, and push back against noble meddling. Some towns even let guilds rule. You hear someone call the head of the blacksmith's guild mayor. Without any irony, it is still a strange word, but one that is starting to mean something. A strange history twist. Sellers start to write letters in code. Not military code, price code. They hide the cost of goods in their writing, so competitors cannot beat them. You read one that says, "Our cousin Balthazar is well fed, but costly this season." It seems Balthazar was a code word for pepper. Wild. Trade paths get bigger by land, sea, river, and just being stubborn. You travel for a time with a spice caravan and watch as they talk about tolls at city gates like it is a chess game. In one port, you see cranes lifting crates off ships. With scary rightness. The dock workers barely speak the same language. But the beat of profit is known everywhere. And markets are not just for goods now. Ideas move with the same speed. You watch a printer sell books by a fish seller. You see a paper arguing that sellers do more for society than kings. We feed you, it reads, and we charge less. It is bold. You buy a copy. Tarabai 8/13/2025 11:46 a.m. Here is your smart person talk. Is the rise of the seller class the real start of capitalism? Or just a more fancy kind of medieval swapping? Some say capitalism is born here in the change from feudal dues. To contract work, the showing up of credit, the idea of value into paper. Others say that real capitalism does not show up until industry. You lean toward the first, mostly because you have seen a seller haggle over debt interest rates like he made up finance. And of course, wherever there is money, there are banks. You go to a city where the Medici family runs a building. That looks like a cathedral, but smells like old paper and big wants. No gold lying around, just tall desks, whispering scribes, and a feeling of being watched. A banker there explains interest to you using 3 pebbles, and a story about goats. You do not fully understand it, but it feels important. Money lending is still a risky business, both socially and spiritually. The church does not like charging interest, calling it usury. But the rules get bent when everyone needs a loan. You see clerics with seller debts and sellers sponsoring church fixes. It is a relationship built on carefully ignored hypocrisy. Not everyone loves this new system. Nobles are worried. Peasants are not sure. They do not make anything, one farmer grumbles. They just move things. But even he cannot say no that when his plow breaks. It is a seller who finds him a new one fast. Here is a strange but real post-sickness effect. With so many empty spots left in society, some sellers rise very high. You see one who started as a fish seller's helper, and now funds whole city projects. He owns a house with glass windows, has scribes, and says he once lent a prince enough money to buy his horseback. You are not sure if it is true. Does not matter. People believe him. Markets become centers of social life. Not just places to buy cabbage, but to hear news, argue about politics, flirt poorly, or pick up a song from a wandering lute player. One day, you see a puppet show making fun of local tax collectors. Half the crowd is laughing. The other half is tax collectors. They are not amused. And the cities they are growing, getting bigger, pulled up by seller wealth. Not noble command. Houses with more than one floor, stone buildings, public fountains. One city even builds a town hall with a clock on it. A clock. Time itself is becoming something to manage, not just go through. You walk through a market square at sunset. The stalls half empty, the torches flickering on. Children chase each other between barrels. A seller counts coins. A baker hums as she closes her shop. You smell roasted onions, cinnamon, the faint sharpness of iron. From the farrier's booth, and you see this is not just commerce. It is the heartbeat of a new world. Steady, complex, relentless. You sit in a candlelit room, bent over a desk. That wobbles a little every time you move your weight. Outside, it is raining soft, the kind of rain that makes you thankful for walls. Inside, the air smells of melted wax and wet wool. But the thing that has your eye is in front of you. A page, a single sheet of heavy paper, cream-colored and a bit warped. Covered in words so right they might have been carved, instead of written. And the thing is, you can read it. You are not fast, not pretty, but enough. Enough to follow a sentence with your finger and whisper it. Under your breath, enough to make sense of signs. Of thoughts that once lived only in other people's mouths. And that in some way feels like a kind of magic. You are living through the literacy boom. And while it might not make for a very showy revolution, it is quietly rewriting the world. Once upon a time, okay, like 50 years ago, reading was a special thing for monks, nobles, and that one seller's kid who had a strange amount of free time. Now it is spreading like yeast in warm dough. Slow, not seen, but strong. Tarabai 8/13/2025 46 a.m. The reasons are many. Printing presses, sure, but also need. The post-sickness world needs communication. Contracts, bills of sale, lists of things, prayers, petitions. Love letters, apologies. Every written word is a kind of bridge between people. Between places, between power and the powerless. You see a weaver's daughter who learned to read by watching her brother do Latin verbs. Now she reads psalms out loud to neighbors who bring her bread as thanks. You see a baker who keeps a recipe book full of careful notes. Stars for good batches and angry faces next to the bad ones. You copy one of his sourdough ways and right away fail to make it. And it is not just the top texts now. Sure, the smart people still talk about Cicero and quote Thomas Aquinas, like they are ordering lunch, but more and more. You see vernacular writing, local languages, German, English, French, Dutch. Words that sound like the streets they are spoken on. Words that feel like they are for everyone. A strange development you see. People start writing in the margins. Tiny scribbled thoughts in the corners of books. Some are notes, some are jokes, some are insults aimed at the author. You find one that just says, "This chapter is nonsense." But the drawing of the goat is nice. The drawing is nice, and the art of reading becomes social. People meet to listen to texts read out loud, especially when only one person in the room can really read. You watch a crowd hang on every word of a romantic story. About two sad lovers from Spain. Half the listeners are crying by the end. One just says, should have married the shepherd. The church, always the worried parent, sees both a chance and a danger. On one hand, literacy means more people reading the Bible. On the other hand, it means more people seeing the Bible. Differently, loudly, sometimes in a direct opposite of doctrine. Which brings us to your smart person talk. Is rising literacy freeing society or making it unstable? Some say it is the key to having power that once a person can read. They are harder to trick, harder to control. Others say it asks for chaos, that too many voices spoil the harmony of tradition. You sit in on a hot talk between two friars, one quoting Augustine, the other quoting a peasant woman, who read a book once and decided the saints were not so great. You quietly eat your apple and say nothing. Another strange effect of this reading craze, the showing up of personal journals. Not the big diaries of kings, but small, simple notebooks, full of weather reports, dreams, small complaints, and long lists of things one hopes to do before death. You read one that says, 1. Buy shoes that do not squeak. 2. Learn to flirt better. 3. Avoid Bernard. You do not ask who Bernard is. Books become status symbols, not just for what they say, but for having them. Even a small shelf of books, especially in the local tongue, is a thing to be proud of. You go to a house where the books are shown more clearly. Then the fireplace. They are a little moldy, still beautiful. And the stories themselves, they are making more. Folktales once passed from mouth to mouth are now kept on paper. You read one about a talking cat who tricks a queen into marrying a fisherman. It makes no sense. You love it anyway. You also start to see instructional texts, manuals, guides. How to keep bees, how to dye cloth without poisoning your neighbors. How to write a letter that does not sound desperate. They are clumsy and full of opinions, but useful. You once relied on gut feeling to fix a broken wagon wheel. Now there is a diagram and 3 different ways, depending on the wood type. You meet a traveling scribe who teaches writing for meals. He shows you how to hold a quill without poking yourself, and how to make a decent lowercase g. You ask how many people he has taught. He shrugs. I stopped counting after I taught a dog his name. The dog, by the way, is very proud.